Jax is a character that many people love, many people hate, and now we're discovering he has many more layers than he ever initially led onto. When we first saw Jax, we all knew that there was definitely more to him than meets the eye, but I don't think anyone could really have guessed where he was going, because this is very different from the trope that is normally associated with the very strong and egotistical characters. My name is Caboodle. I am very hyperfixated on Digital Circus. I love psychology and I need to talk about it. Like everyone else, I immediately started to love Jax in the pilot because he was egotistical and he was funny and he was mean, and I just like characters that are like that generally. If you can't tell, he is in fact my favorite character. But after episode 6, he became my favorite character for very different reasons. I still love that side of him, but there's so much more than really what's there. And we all kind of knew that, but it's very different in a way that isn't really done with this trope of character. Normally the egotistical character is very, you know, they have a secret soft side, and it's like mean people with a heart of gold is normally what it's labeled as. But Jax isn't like that, but he is at the same time. I'll get into what I mean. He's very well written and he's very interesting because a lot of things that these shows normally don't really do if they're put in a dystopian set like Digital Circus is, where it's sort of something that isn't really comprehensible to the actual human mind. My example is like Hunger Games. A lot of people, when they think about Hunger Games, they go, oh, what would I do in Hunger Games? I would want to be, I haven't seen Hunger Games in years, but like I would want to be the good guy and I would want to help out and I would do the noble thing. And you don't quite realize until you're put in a serious situation like how you would actually respond to that. I would love to think if I was put in Digital Circus that I would be able to help and I would be able to, you know, get everyone out and it would all be great. But realistically, if you're put in a scenario that is so mind-boggling and twisted like the circus is, I'd have no idea how I would react. It's very, very difficult for anyone to actually process how they would react in a situation that's especially not realistic in this world to what, like, this couldn't actually happen. Most likely, Digital Circus couldn't actually happen. So it's hard to actually analyze how one would personally react. So I think how Jax is written is really good with that because it falls outside of the very normal stereotype in shows of, oh, they will act like people would, like how your everyday Joe, how your everyday person would have, they'd have their internal struggles, but they'd still be relatively sane. Would you be relatively sane if you put yourself in this kind of world? That's the real question. It's really hard to process what you would do because it's not something that could actually happen or something that you could process happening, which is why I think a big reason of the way Jax acts the way that he does and why Goose's writing is so good for it is because he acts in a completely unpredictable, unreasonable way. Because, yeah, look at the fucking scenario who said, yeah. Anyway, I'll get more into the details as we watch through the episode because I'm gonna point out all of my little things. There will be some stuff in here about theories I have that aren't to do with Jax as well that I just need to talk about because I haven't looked at a lot of other theories and stuff because I just wanted to like speak what my mind was saying from the episode without having like outside influences. So I don't know if these have been brought up by other people before or if these are common theories. I know the King one I'm going to talk about is a common theory, but there are some others that I personally haven't seen people talk about, but that's because I haven't really been looking. My extent of TADC content that I really like, fan content that I get, is mainly Instagram reels. So we're gonna go through the episode and I'm gonna point shit out. I'm so insane about this show. Okay.
What are you doing up there?
I'm hiding from Caine. I think I overheard him talking to Bubble about an in-house adventure, and I'm not gonna be part of it.
And you're just gonna hang out in a flower pot all day?
This is something I want to point out that isn't directly to do with Jax, but I think it's something that's interesting. In the first episode, we see Caine going, oh, I have my hundreds of all-seeing eyes on you. Ooh. I don't think Caine can actually see that much. He has missed multiple things happening, and the fact that he can hide from Zooble in a flower pot, either he doesn't actually have that many eyes, or maybe he pilots all of them, so he can't pay attention to everything at the same time. It's hard because he's not only, like, Zooble can hide in a flower pot. That's not overly secretive. And even though Caine can do the finger snap thing, he initially, I'll get into this more later, he initially doesn't want to as much, it seems. He wanted to get along with the circus. Again, we'll get more into that later. During the entire pilot, for a good chunk of time, he missed an abstraction running around. So I don't think he can see that much as he gives on. I also think Caine is a massive liar, and we'll get into that more later. I love this show.
Caine's been checking up on my room lately. When I don't answer, he just starts singing Daisy Bell in front of my door.
That's a good addition. If you don't know, Daisy Bell is the first song that was ever sung by a computer. So I see that. That was good.
Hey, Caine!
You fucking asshole!
Yes, Jax? Look, it's Zooble!
See, that's an interesting one as well. Caine has very selective hearing. Jax calls him, "Hey, Caine!" Instantly shows up throughout the entire pilot when Pomni was going, "Caine! Caine! There's a fucking problem!" No response. Nothing. Methinks that he isn't actually nearly as aware as he says that he is. Also, should I talk about this now? Actually, no. I'll talk about it later.
Today's adventure is gonna be a bit of a short one due to the Favorite Character Award.
Okay, if you don't know, if you're not super into Digital Circus, well, I mean, if you're watching this video, you're probably reasonably into it, but if you're not super into Digital Circus, like, between the episodes, a few weeks ago now, I think it was two weeks ago? August 8th, it was announced ending, so a bit more than 2 weeks ago now. Glitch put up a voting site where everyone, there was like a voting thing where everyone would vote for a character. We didn't know it was the favorite character because they didn't say what it was, like what they were voting for. They just said pick a character, or not they, Caine.
Wait, what are they even voting for?
The winning character will be announced on August 8th. Doesn't that all sound fun?
Yay!
You know, you could sound a little more excited. I put so much time and effort into this show for you ungrateful
It was an in-canon thing where Caine specifically went, "Hey everyone, pick a character," which means, well, most likely, all of this is theoretical, all of my evidence is subjective. This world, the one that we live in as people, is the real world of the Digital Circus. It is the world that all the characters came from. It's not some like alternate one that's, it's not like how Marvel has like Earth 818 and shit like that. Like it's this one. It's not just some other thing that's like, it's like this world, but it's different, but it's actively this one because Caine interacts with us directly. We'll get more into Jax's association with that too. I have so much to talk about. With that, we all had to vote. We had about a week, I think, to vote for a favorite character, and you could vote for a character. We didn't know it was the favorite, but everyone picked the favorite. It said on it, like on the fucking website, it said absolutely not rigged. It definitely was rigged so that Caine was last because Caine was losing the entire time. Knowing the community, I don't think Caine would actually be last. So that was probably rigged for the show because you'll see later on why. In the end credit scene, you see Caine freaks the hell out after seeing that he's lost. So that is probably going to be something important. It just like contributes to him breaking, which, as we've seen in the past few episodes, and you see more in this one, Caine is breaking. He is losing his shit. He is getting upset. Which is interesting, because Caine is an AI who theoretically shouldn't be able to sort of comprehend human emotions by getting upset. How does he get upset? He doesn't feel things. AI is a concept. It just steals from other shit and like reinterprets it and pukes out something new, but it's not new. It's not original. They can't feel things. So how is Caine getting upset? That leads into the Caine and Abel thing. If you don't know, I'm going to go on like 400 tangents. If you don't know, there's C&A is put everywhere. It was confirmed in episode 6 that it stands for Caine and Abel. Loads of people thought it was Caine and Abel who are from the Bible. I don't know a lot about the Bible, but from what I know is that the relationship between Caine and Abel in the Bible is that Caine and Abel were brothers. Caine kills Abel out of jealousy. That's all I know about it. There's probably some more, but I don't know much about it. There's something to think about. Why does Caine feel emotion? Is it jealousy? Who's Abel? Lots of questions. We haven't really dived much, like being able to see much of the world outside the Digital Circus or where it started yet. So hopefully in later episodes we'll get there, because there's definitely references to it in this episode, and there has been in the past, obviously. It's not a lot to work on about with what's actually happening with Caine. All we know is that he is slowly getting more and more annoyed at the cast and losing his patience, and starting to bug out because of that. Like we saw in the therapy bit with Zooble. He is terrified by the fear of not being needed, the fear of failure, you know, not being good at the only thing he's meant to be good at, which can come from crippling self-hatred and jealousy all of the time, which again plays into the Caine and Abel stereotype. Anyway, I got super off topic. Character awards, all of the people we voted on a character. I think, if I remember correctly, Pomni ended up winning. Oh yeah, I also think it was rigged between Pomni and Jax. I haven't really seen many people point that out, but Pomni and Jax were neck and neck, like, the whole time. I don't know. That one's more like subjective. It's more just like that's unlikely to happen because also Glitch posted about them being so neck and neck, which you could kind of tell when they started posting the fully rendered images with like poll results that it was rigged to be like that. I'm guessing Jax and Pomni being neck and neck was also rigged. That one, I don't know why they would have rigged. The Caine one makes sense because it impacts the story directly. I don't know why they would have rigged that one, so it's not... I don't know if that one was actually rigged, but it just seemed like something that's unlikely to happen. Granted, both Jax and Pomni are very beloved characters. I think Pomni's my second favorite character behind Jax, so it could have been legit. Basically, on August 8th, they decided to be like, poll is ending. And in return, they didn't announce the winner, but instead changed it to... that was when the trailer came out, was on the 8th. So it was the teams of being like, which team do you want to win? It was Team Bad Guys, Team Pew Pew, and Team Unmasked. I don't know what happened with that. They didn't really touch on that in the show. I think it was just sort of like a fun way to advertise. We will also get more into with on the website of the voting awards before it got turned into the teams. Each character had a little video being like, why you should vote for me. And we will get into Jax's one in a minute because it is very important to a point that I'm going to push.
Yeah, Zooble and I constantly say we like more chill and relaxing adventures.
Did you really not like my softball one?
Oh, Ragatha.
I'm not big into sports.
There is a whole area of Ragatha that can be dissected as well, but I'm not going to go into that too much in this video because I haven't had the time to think about that, whereas with Jax, I have done nothing but think about that.
And me no likey.
All right, you really want to know what I want?
Oh no.
I want the ability to have sex.
You'll notice as well, something that I thought was interesting is that normally all of the character swears or like words they can't say is bleeped out with the like the boing, like the, you know what I'm talking about. And all the NPCs are just beeps like that. I was really confused when I saw this initially of like, why has Zooble got the NPC beep? Why don't they have the like the thing? I later found out on Goose's Twitter that it wasn't meant to be bleeped, but it had to be bleeped because of YouTube censorship, which is really annoying. So, god damn it, YouTube. I want the show uncensored, please. Spare them. Let Goose create what she wants to make. But yeah, that's why. So it doesn't actually mean anything. There was a few things as well. I think last episode, Ragatha's hair glitched at a certain point, and everyone was like, oh my gosh, she's subtracting. No, it was a animation error, they confirmed. So there's a few things you have to be careful about in terms of diving too deep into lore. That one, it doesn't mean anything. They just had to like censor it probably last minute because of YouTube censorship.
Are we finally having this conversation?
Jax looks directly at the camera here. He's done this a lot. We'll talk about it more later when he points it out, but he does this a lot. I also love that Caine is so disturbed by the concept of sex. That's so funny. Why? Why is he so disturbed by the concept? I get it's a family-friendly circus, but like, really? Why does it bother you this much, homeboy? like he's losing his shit about just the idea of sex. I imagine that also would have made more sense if it didn't have to be censored. I guess sex generally is not exactly a family-friendly word. That'd be the first time that someone has bypassed it. I guess later on you see Caine say ass, but it's in assuming, so it doesn't really count, I guess. That would have been the first time, if it wasn't censored because of fucking YouTube, that someone has said something that it's bypassed his family-friendly filter, which would, you know, break his reality a little. That's my best guess as to why he freaks out so much. He like resets, which is interesting. I would like to say as well that I don't know anything about the show more than you guys do. I just like to think a lot. So this is all of just me thinking.
This is a private room where nobody can see or hear you once inside. And this is a loaded gun.
Oh boy.
Character A will take the gun into the private room and empty it out of all its ammunition.
So obviously this didn't end up happening. If you've watched the episode, this didn't end up happening. But I think this really does just show how much Caine is losing off his rocker a little bit and the bugs are coming through. It's hard though because Caine is an AI, so it does sort of mean of like, what does him going insane mean? Because he's an AI, he shouldn't have the ability to go insane. He doesn't have a brain, you know? So is it bugs? Is it a virus? Like, what is actually happening? Is he self-destructing on himself? Like, what is happening to make this happen to him, you know? Especially with guns. Guns are not normally seen as a family-friendly thing. Why is he bringing in guns? Just as a general statement. You see a little later on, he seems to, like, care a lot less, just generally, which is interesting. There is also, I'm not going to bring it up every time, but there's also just, like, the whole thing of, like, how the fuck is he feeling these things? He's meant to be an AI. Like, is he just advanced? Like, I don't think that there's a lot of people that think that Caine isn't actually an AI and is just some guy. I think he definitely is, but not in the way that we understand AI. Because AI in this day and age, especially in the last few years or so, has been very... I think we all know what I mean in terms of like the stereotype that AI has. And I think that Caine is definitely AI in the way that he's artificial intelligence, but I don't think he's the same kind of thing. Like he clearly has his own ability to think, which AI in our world doesn't.
The gun and shoot themselves in the head, trusting that character.
I would like to say,
Character B
this is just
will
a
then
funny
take
little
the gun and shoot themselves.
That font is like the default Premiere Pro font, which is really funny because I noticed that immediately because that's the font that I used for like all of my notes when I'm editing something in Premiere. That's like the default Premiere Pro font, which I just thought was really funny that they just used that. I don't know if they edit this in Premiere. They probably do. I don't know though, but it's just funny that that's just the font they used.
And trust each other.
Sounds a little convoluted.
You look convoluted. Anyway, Jax.
Yeah,
why don't-
again, see, we saw Caine snap at Zooble in the last episode. This isn't new. He is not happy. And I have no solid theories of what Caine is going to do or what Caine can do or is capable of, whether he does it purposefully or not. But he is losing it and he's getting pissed. And Zooble said in a previous episode, oh, Caine's only holding back because he likes us. If he stops liking them, I don't know what could happen. I don't think we know enough about what's outside of Caine, what created Caine, what Caine actually is to guess what he could do. Because the circus is theoretically his world. He has control over it. I don't think he has as much control over it as he says. I think he has a lot of control, but not as much as he talks about.
You start.
What, him?
Wait, what am I doing? I wasn't paying attention.
Here. This is so interesting. So we already knew that, well, if you've been paying attention to the Digital Circus episodes and overanalyzing them like I have, you already knew that Caine is an unreliable narrator. In the first episode, he said, I can't control your minds. It's the one thing I can't do. But then over the course of the episodes, we've seen that that's not true. As in with Pomni in episode 3, when she gets possessed, like the stupid source with Ragatha, with Jax being a vegan, and then again right here, he very clearly can access their minds. He can change their minds. He can put stuff in. He can take stuff out. And he has lied about that, and no one has really called him out on it. Why? I don't know. He's been relatively secretive about it, that it's been hard to pick up on for a while. For example, episode 3 and 4, I didn't even clock that he was actively changing their minds until I saw Jax go, I thought Caine couldn't in episode 5. And then I sort of started putting the pieces together where he's shown signs of it. So now, because he seems to care a lot less, he's not hiding it as obviously anymore. Because the others, he could hide it in adventures and be like, oh yeah, it's part of the adventure, blah, 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 right? And he could sort of disguise it a little bit easier because in other media, like other TV shows a lot of the time, possession is, specifically talking about episode 3, possession is something that happens a lot. So an average person will see a possession in a TV show and go, oh yeah, that just happens. That's just something that can happen. It's a common supernatural trope. That is just something that can happen. But then you think about it in the context of the digital circus and go, hold on, this isn't set in reality though. This isn't set in a universe where that can happen, which means, because it's all the adventures are fake inside a fake world, which means Caine controls it all, which means he made the possession happen, therefore he can alter their minds. And I think this is just him showing even more how sloppy he's become with it, is that he did that openly in front of everyone. He didn't try and hide it in any kind of adventure. He actively went, Jax, I'm sick of you not listening, and like beamed it into his head. That is openly changing his mind. We don't know if Caine has done something behind the scenes to alter any of their minds. I want to think best case scenario and that he hasn't, but I don't know. Caine has lied multiple times. He's lied about that. He's lied about the exit on the first episode. He insisted that the exit wasn't real. Granted, he didn't hide it very well because it was meant to be obvious that he was lying. But he denied it multiple times, and he only admitted to it not being true once he was called out for it. So he is not afraid to lie. He is a liar. Don't get me wrong, I love Caine. I think he's an amazing character. I need to be very clear, I love every single character in this show. I think they're all incredibly well written. But I think it is also important to point out they each have flaws. They all have flaws. That's what makes a good character. And I don't think Caine is a villain. I think he's an antagonist in a similar way that Jax is an antagonist, but he's not a villain. It isn't something that's so simple to be as black and white as having one bad guy, because they all have their own issues and they're all coping with them due to the nature of the scenario that they're in. They don't cope with it well. None of them cope with it well. They all have their issues. Like I was saying before, Ragatha, again, I haven't deep dived into Ragatha as heavily as I have with some of the others, but you know, Ragatha's got her whole thing where she needs to be liked because of her immense self-hatred. All of them, I think, have some form of self-hatred or self-doubt, self-confidence issues. Jax will get into later heavily. Caine has his issues with not thinking he's good enough and not being good at the one thing he's meant to be good at. He said that himself. Zooble has their issues with body dysmorphia and not feeling like themselves. Gangle obviously has a lot of issues with severe anxiety and not thinking she's ever good enough. She's worth anything. She's ever fine. Like Gangle is someone who's most openly, I think, showed how unwell they are. Pomni is an interesting one because Pomni's, in the first 3 episodes, you see very clearly the sort of shift into the digital world. And then Pomni gets used to it for a bit, but Pomni hasn't been there nearly as long as everyone else. My best guess, it probably is it's officially said somewhere, but my best guess is Pomni's been in the circus for about a month and a half by now. Like, I don't think it's been a lot of time, because I think some of the earlier episodes were days back to back, but episode 5 and 6 were at least a week apart in terms of in-game time, you know what I'm saying, in show time, like between episodes. So my best guess is Pomni's been there for about a month and a half. So Pomni is difficult to go with because they haven't been there for as long. So they have still a grasp more on their humanity than everyone else does. Kinger is an interesting case where he's very stable and sane when he's in the dark. But obviously he has some issues with light, not being able to remember things. I don't know if he has the self-hatred, especially on the levels that the others have. In episode 6, he mentions that he's had some level of self-hatred in the past that he's been able to work through. So I think he's more on the outer end of a lot of the other stuff because, you know, we're going into the theory of that. If you don't know, this theory is that Kinger created the digital circus and he is responsible for everyone being here. Well, not everyone being here, but he's responsible for like the creation of it. You know, there's the evidence of he did computer science for years. And then in this episode especially, we'll get into the scene a bit later, I'll point it out. But when he creates the butterfly for Ragatha, he can just do that. He has a lot more power than maybe he's aware of, maybe everyone else is aware of. And also he talks about later on that he feels responsible for a lot of bad stuff that happened, and it took him a long time to get over that. So that would all very heavily line up with the fact that he created the circus. He's been there the longest. That would just make sense. They all have very severe self-confidence issues, which, again, given the scenario that they're in, I'm not surprised.
Or, yeah, we could all just shoot each other. Here, have guns.
See, here is another example of Caine doesn't give a shit anymore. He really doesn't care. He's really just not having it anymore. He's trying so hard to do all this stuff, and Zooble doesn't want to be in it. Zooble doesn't want to participate. Pomni has shown that she doesn't like them. Ragatha's being kind of fake, so it's hard to tell. Well, okay, that's a very blunt, generalized way to put it. There's obviously many layers to Ragatha as well. I wouldn't say fake is the right word, but she doesn't always mean everything she says because she's trying to appease everyone. And Jax, I will get into it. There's a specific bit that I'm talking about that will unleash the dam of all of my thoughts about Jax, because there is many of them.
I don't care anymore.
Hooray!
Oh, also, Uzi's gun. Uzi's gun is there for murder drones. Wait, let me...
Shoot each other. Here, have gun.
There, you can see it. That's Uzi's gun. If you don't know what that is, Murder Drones is another glitch show, and they put Uzi's gun there, and that made me very happy because I also love Murder Drones. I also love Murder Drones, so I have 2 Michael Kovac statues on my desk now, and fuck. I think out of all the companies and merch and shit that I think I have the most glitch stuff. I think just because it's like in Australia. Glitches, by the way, Glitch is in the same city as me, which is fucking awesome. So I found this at like an op shop because I think Glitch had like they had extra merch or something that was like, it was ages ago now, but they had extra merch left over. And I went to a Vinnie's one day and there was like shelves full of Glitch merch, and I was like, holy shit. So they probably just like they just donated it to a charity store, which was awesome. So I have so much Digital Circus merch that I got for like $10 at a Vinnie's, which was awesome. But I got the Digital Circus shirt and Uzi's jacket for like $10. It was great. Anyway, yeah, so I just have a lot of Glitch merch because of that.
Hooray!
Wait, that's just it?
He also got his tail back. I think everyone's probably noticed this by now. Jax got his tail back. They didn't talk about how he got his tail back. There's not really any hints from what I've seen of how he got his tail back, because he points out that it's gone in episode 5, but he has it again. I'd love to hear your theories as to how that happened. I don't know. They literally didn't even acknowledge it, so I don't know. I would also like to say, on all of the things that I'm talking about, please put your thoughts in the comments, or any additions, or if anything you think can't be true because of certain stuff. I just need to talk about this, and I want your opinions on it. And I love that I'm a YouTuber, so I can just like do that. It's great.
Use guns and have fun?
I didn't say have fun.
It's just a little aimless.
Use the sights.
Caine!
Ugh, fine! We're bringing teams back. Pair up in teams of 2.
See, I think that's interesting as well. I'm pausing this so much. If you haven't seen this episode, go watch it separately because I am just gonna talk. I think that's interesting is that Zooble is the person to push more aim to the adventure, even though they don't want to be in it. So it's not that Zooble doesn't care. I think they just want them to be good. I think that Zooble would be okay doing the adventures. They've already talked about their self-image problems, so if that wasn't a thing. And B, if they were just like good and actually what they liked, like, because Zooble, I wouldn't say was happy to, but preferred working in the fast food adventure. Like, they were okay with that. So they just want them to be good.
You all get 3 lives. Last team surviving is the winner. Happy?
He looks so evil. Look at that little fucking guy. God, I hate him. I hate him. I love him so much, but I fucking hate him. He's such a little, you get it.
Come on, Sadie.
Wait, hold on.
Little bit.
Wait, hold on. Is Uzi's gun there twice? I didn't notice that, because that's Uzi's gun, but that's the fucking thing that she puts in the top of it, no? I don't know. That might be something else. They're the same green. Anyway, it's not that important. I like murder drones as well. I'm just picking it up. Wait, no, that is Uzi's gun.
For all.
That is, wait, is it? No. Yes? Hold on. I'm so confused. It looks similar. Is that a fucking money gun? That's funny. What does that say? I think that says mayonnaise. I don't think it actually says mayonnaise, but it looks like it says mayonnaise. And I'd really think that's funny if they had a mayonnaise gun.
We've been together for every team adventure in the past.
Guess times are changing, bunny boy.
Bunny boy. I would like to say as well, I don't really know why Jax is actively, I wouldn't say he's upset about this, but he's a little annoyed about it. I guess it's only because I think in this case, I think it's because his authority is being challenged. My immediate thought in this kind of scenario, which I don't think is the case here for many reasons, but my immediate thought is like, oh, he's jealous, blah, 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 which I don't think is true. But that's just my immediate reaction from this, because that's what a lot of type these kind of things do.
Hey, you wanna be on my team?
I'd love to, but, well, I really don't want Kinger to get stuck with Jax.
Oh, yeah.
I think Ragatha's right for this, but equally, I think she's putting everyone else's needs before her own. If she wanted to be with Pomni, go be with Pomni. Kinger is an adult. He can handle himself.
Yeah.
She does kind of like infantize everyone, which I don't blame her. This isn't like, I like Ragatha. This isn't me being like, oh, fuck Ragatha. No, I like Ragatha. She has a lot of issues, as does everyone else in the show. But I think hers come from a place of feeling that she needs to be responsible for everyone, because she needs to make sure everyone's happy all the time. She said that herself, is that she wants everyone to be happy all the time. So therefore she doesn't trust people to be happy on their own. You know, it's an interesting case of like needing to control things. But she's doing it with the best intentions. I don't know. Ragatha's also one of those characters that's so interesting and well written. Ah, Goose, you did such a good job. Oh, Ragatha.
Hey, Pomni? If you ever need to talk to somebody or need help with anything, I'm here.
See, this is such an interesting thing, because Pomni doesn't receive this well. Whereas in Ragatha's eyes, this is the best thing she can say. Which is such an interesting case of exactly what Ragatha believes of. It is her responsibility to make people happy. It is her responsibility to be there. It is her responsibility to take everyone else's burdens and put them on herself. To her, this is an act of, hey, I'm letting you know that I'm always here for you and I always will be there, and like, I'm doing this because she's fulfilling her purpose in her eyes. She's fulfilling the reason that she's here. The reason that she's here to help. The reason that she wants to be is to make people happy. So she's fulfilling that. Whereas from Pomni's perspective, it's very almost like the opposite way of, maybe I don't think this is this is kind of the extreme case of Pomni seeing it as like, why is she saying this? Does she not think I'm gonna be okay? Because in the past, like, Pomni has directly said to Ragatha, being like, I'm not a child, you don't have to hype me up. Pomni is seeing this in a way of being infantized, as a way of being overly taken care of, as a shown of maybe not being trusted by Ragatha to be able to take care of herself. I can understand that in being a situation where you feel as though when someone is trying to support you too much, it doesn't feel real. Like, it feels almost insulting, which is, it's very hard to like walk that line, because I can see both of their sides very clearly. Ragatha wants to show Pomni that she's there and that she's always going to be helpful and that she can help take away her pain and that everything's going to be good. And then Pomni feels as though Ragatha is pushing too much, especially because Ragatha mentions later on is that she failed Pomni like she failed Jax, which I'm guessing something very similar happened between Jax and Ragatha in the past, of Ragatha trying to show that she's there and to show that she cares, but by coming on way too strong, and in return making Jax, or Pomni in this case, feel as though she doesn't trust them and she doesn't think that they're capable and she doesn't believe all these things, which is, it's very hard it's very hard to see in both cases the other perspective, because it seems so obvious in your eyes. I said infantizing already. Condescending is another one. It feels very condescending. Obviously, Ragatha is trying, couldn't be further from what she's trying to do, but equally, effects on people are also just as important as intention, you know? Intention's very important as well. I feel like intention shouldn't be forgotten, especially in situations like this, but they're about equal, I'd say, intention and the actual effect. So that's just something that these two both need to keep in mind, which they're never gonna know because they can't hear me. And it's a scripted show. But you know what I'm saying? Whatever.
Hey, Zooble, do you want to hold on to this?
Gangle
today's
and
game?
Zooble.
Huh?
I don't really trust myself.
They're
that much
adorable.
with it. And I also just really want to be able to fire a Tommy gun while laughing maniacally, and I don't want to break it before I get that chance.
Hearing that for me was unexpected from Gangle, but it does make sense. Gangle seems very pent up, very shy, yes, but it feels like it's more than just shyness. Gangle has a lot to process and doesn't have the capacity or doesn't feel like she has the capacity or the space to do that. Which again, given their situation, and as well, Zooble brings this up later on, but specifically between Zooble and Gangle is they have the character avatars of that. They have Zooble has the parts and Gangle has the mask, which I just realized something. That alters the way that they think. Hey, Caine! Hey! Stop that! I don't think it's directly, maybe upon reflecting on that sentence, I don't think it's directly, because Zooble is with all the parts, and obviously Zooble also goes by they, them pronouns, allegory for being non-binary, right? But like, you don't feel as though you feel yourself in your own body, right? That's the way that Zooble has put it themselves. And then Gangle having, you know, the comedy mask, and then the real thing that's underneath is, you know, putting up the mask of a happy facade, right? In this case, it's a very literal sense for both of them, in that Gangle can be happy without the happy mask, but it's not in a way that is always like feels good, I guess. You know, it's more of like a relieved. The example I'm thinking of is at the end of episode 4. That's the only time we've really seen Gangle happy without the comedy mask. It's interesting, the physical and the mental comparisons between putting on a physical mask and putting on a mental one, because it's almost as if the physical mask breaking inhibits Gangle from being happy mentally. Like that's a physical break, which Caine, did you do that, mister? I haven't thought enough about Gangle's and Zooble's like physical attributes and how that will affect their mental state in terms of rather than the other way around. I think there's a lot to be unpacked there that I'm not going to quite get into because I haven't thought about it enough, but I think there's a lot to unpack there. Oh, team bad guys. Unsurprisingly, they're my favorite because they're my two favorite characters, so.
Oh, yeah, the guns have been teleported to random spots in the circus.
Again, Caine,
Go find them,
not
champs.
We need to find the Tommy gun!
Wait, hold on. Is that Bubble? Is that Bubble in the reflection? I have some theories with the reflections of their eyes, but I think that's Bubble. Now, this is a big piece of lore. This is a very interesting one. We see C&A, you know, it's a company logo probably. It's labeled everywhere, generally. I don't have a lot to say about this because, again, we really don't know a lot about outside the digital circus world. Apart from my best guess is that it's this one, the one that we live in, because of the way that Caine and Jax interact with it. But yeah, we really don't know enough, I think, to have a solid. I don't know enough to have a solid guess on what this could mean. My best guess is that it's some sort of reminiscing from something. It's hard because my immediate thought is Caine used to work there and he's reminiscing on that, or this is from the perspective of something that it seems like it's reminiscing. Caine's an AI, as far as we understand. I'm pushing this point of Caine being an AI because I've seen some people be like, oh, Caine might not be an AI. But I think Goose has said directly that Caine is an AI. That could be a lie, but I don't know. It doesn't... I don't know enough about this. We don't know enough about this for me to make a solid guess, which is why I'm hesitant to say anything. It doesn't mean much yet. It doesn't mean anything yet, from what I understand. I'd love to hear your thoughts about this in my comments. Please, if you have thoughts about what this could mean, tell me, because I need to know. I want to know what everyone's thinking. Caine has showed many times that he does enjoy being the boss, which also could play into Caine and Abel if it was a company. Maybe they ran a company at some point and he wasn't the boss, and now he's projecting that. He's looking at desks. In episode 4, he made himself the boss of that. He made himself God in episode 2. He has some kind of power complex, obviously. There's a lot it could mean.
Now, I would bet our biggest concerns would be Jax and Zooble. They're the youngest, so they probably still have some youthful fighting spirit.
Something I did notice, or I didn't notice, but I saw people on Instagram pointing out, I think it was Jax and Zooble and Pomni aren't practicing trigger safely correctly, whereas Kinger, and some of the older characters are, which is a really cool detail to add, because we know that Kinger has had some kind of gun experience before in some capacity. In episode 3, he's a good shot. He knows what he's doing. It's just a cool little detail.
Oh, I got just the thing. Here, take this.
This is the scene I was talking about. I'll let it play out.
What did you just do? What was that?
It's a butterfly. It can restore your health.
Did Caine mention that?
Oh, nah. I made it up.
What?
That is so cool. So that is, I think, a very big contributing factor as to why Kinger may have made the circus. If he has that kind of control, he has that kind of power. I think this also plays very heavily into a point I'm going to make later on with Jax. All of this is just leading up to Jax. I hope you all know that. When we get to the Jax scenes, then I'll yap. But in the way that there's something very similar in this world, that if you just believe something can happen, it does. It's like a very strange manifestation, I suppose you could call it. Like later on as well, we see Jax is like, just shoot the gun unrealistically, however you want, Pom, and it will do good. When Pomni's holding it realistically, she misses. Or it doesn't miss, but it doesn't really do much. Versus when she just does it for fun, hits it perfectly. Similar with, I think, during the scene towards the end when Pomni's after Zooble. That shouldn't be possible, but because Pomni is letting go of what is possible and what isn't, they can do anything. Like, it's very much a case of, if you genuinely believe that this can happen, it will. And I think that that's something that plays into, again, I'll get more into this, but I think it's something that plays more into why Jax acts the way that he does, is because realism doesn't exist here. This isn't something that can be processed properly. There isn't something that can actually put logic to it. Trying to logically look at the digital circus as a plane of existence doesn't really do anything. You know? Do you know what I'm talking about? In the way of the, again, Kinger can butterfly because he felt like it. Pomni can shoot a gun cool and it hits perfectly. Pomni can go, look at this, and it hits all of the guns. Like, it doesn't make sense. And that's the point, is that if you start to let go of the fact that things don't make sense, then you can do anything. I'll get more into it when we see the examples of Jax, but I think that's something that's here. There is also the fact that Kinger could just be more powerful than he's letting on, whether he knows it or not. But I think that Kinger also falling into a similar mindset with Jax of, it isn't real. Stop trying to put logic to it. Just do shit and stuff will happen. They have a similar mindset. Obviously, they both deal with it in very different ways. Kinger is much more mature, much more experienced, much older. He's gone through a lot more. If he did create the circus, he had to experience all of that with either on his own or with Queenie, which is his wife, if you don't know. Which, that's a whole other thing of, like, if he did make the circus, because him and his wife have matching pieces. So you'd think that they would come into it as relatives. They'd come in, not relative. You know what I mean? Like, they'd already have a pre-existing relationship coming into the circus, which means Kinger would have to live with the guilt for years of dragging his wife, someone he loves dearly, into a inescapable hell that he created. Could you imagine how much that would fucking suck? That would be so bad. That would suck. Oh my god. Okay, this is... Okay. Hold on.
What?
This is something I haven't seen anyone talk about. Again, I haven't been looking hard, so maybe this has been brought up before. But... Okay, so at the end of episode 5, you see the guy. You also see at the beginning-ish of episode 5, there's the fucking mannequin that's, like, poking around. Initially, when I saw that before seeing episode 6, I thought that mannequin could possibly have been an NPC from a past adventure that escaped without Caine seeing, and has been lurking around and watching them for ages. Like similar to Gummy Goo situation, but Caine didn't know he escaped and has just been watching them and observing and like gaining presence. I think that still could be the case, but I don't think it's as likely anymore because of this door. I haven't gone through and fact checked this, so this might not be true. And if this isn't true, then it kind of disables this entire theory. But from what I know, this corridor only has doors of playable characters. Of people. It only has doors of people. There's no NPC doors here. And I will also say that this door specifically with this mannequin has been highlighted a lot in the past few episodes. It's highlighted here. Later on in this episode, when it shows the Kaufmo and Ribbit door, it also shows this one. I think, you'll have to quote me on this. Editing me, you'll have to check this. In the sequence, in the intermission sequence, Jax also runs past this door. I think it's in the pilot as well. This door of this mannequin has been highlighted a lot. And I initially, when I saw it in the pilot, thought, oh, it's just an NPC door. Caine has put them there to fill out the space. But all of the other doors are actual people. I think that door is the only mannequin door, which means that there is a good chance that mannequin that was creeping around is an actual guy. That's not an NPC. That's a guy. That is a straight up, that's a guy. How that has happened, I have no idea. Again, this contributes to the fact that I don't think Caine can actually see as much as he thinks he can. Maybe, because when Pomni came into the circus, she interrupted the whole theme song. She popped right into the middle. Like, it was kind of hard to avoid her. Whereas maybe there was this fucking guy who showed up, like, just there isn't a middle of the night, but in the equivalent of the middle of the night when no one was around, and just started existing here and just never met anyone else. What if this guy has just been hanging out? There has never been any acknowledgement of this character, ever. All of the NPCs look like this mannequin. I don't know what this means, but I think that this is straight up just this is like an actual human being.
So, who are you gonna kill first, Pom Pom?
I'd like to say I love the nickname Pom Pom. That's adorable.
I don't know if I'll really be doing much of the killing. I'll just find guns for you, and you can do all the violent stuff. You like that, right?
You know none of this is real, right?
Okay. This isn't about what he says, but this is the best angle that you can see it. This is something I want to talk about, the reflections in their eyes that I brought up earlier. I don't know if it happens with all of the characters or if it's because of something that is like the way that they just do the lighting in the show, but all of the characters have the exact same reflections in their eyes, regardless of the room that they're in. If you look at Jax's eyes, it looks like windows almost, or like a door or something. Every scene that I really look at Pomni and Jax's eyes, it might happen for the other characters, I haven't looked as deeply, but it's always this reflection. Always. No matter what room they're in, no matter what kind of colors, no matter what kind of shapes, it's always this. That might just be because of the way that they do the lighting in the show. It might not actually mean anything, but I think it's just an interesting thing to point out is that it's always this scene with like the 3 window looking things and the light going through them no matter what room they're in. Yeah. Okay, here. You can kind of see it here. It's the same setup. It's the same thing. It has like the windowsill like in between. It could just be shine. I might be looking way too far into this, but I think it's just a cool note.
Circus?
Oh, here.
The game today is literally to shoot each other. So what's the point in taking this moral high ground?
I'm gonna let this scene play out and then talk about it.
They're my friends. I don't really want to hurt them.
Yeah, that was a better one. That was so much better. Hold on.
High ground.
Well, they're my friends. I don't really want
You can see the fucking windows. Those are windows, dude. Oh, so my theory to do with that is that maybe in the reflection of their eyes, it's the room that they're actually in. Because we all know they put on like a headset, right? If you've never used a VR headset, at least with my VR headset, you can see like, if you go too far out of bounds in like the little circle that you draw, you can see through the world. Like there's a camera on the other side that like can show it. So this might be the room that they're in the real world. This might be still the room that they're actually in. Again, it's reflections on an eyeball. I may be looking way too far into this, but I think it's a cool detail. I think it would be different if the reflection changed each time, but it's the same looking windows. Like, that doesn't just look like shine, that looks like windows.
Want to hurt them?
All right, let me be real here. Why do you care about that?
About not hurting my friends?
Look, I know what it's like. One day you're somebody in the real world doing important things, and then the next you're just a weird little cartoon jester. You want to hold on to that part of you that still thinks it's part of that world, but in the end, what does it get you? Ragatha tries to be all nice and friendly, but she gets torn up every other adventure. Whether we like it or not, all we are now is a bunch of cartoon characters. So what's the point of pretending we're not?
We're still people, though, right?
I thought we were at first, but as time goes on, we just end up falling into our archetypes, become part of the machine.
What's your archetype, then? The villain?
Listen, I add a key dynamic. I see how far I can push things. I screw with people, and I break the fourth wall. You want to know why? It's 'cause it's funny. I do everything 'cause it's funny.
I have so much to talk about. Okay, first off, Jax's complete disregard for humanity. And not just humanity generally, his own humanity. He has actively given up his own humanity because he doesn't see a point in it. He is obsessed with this idea that the digital circus is a machine and it isn't real. To be fair, he's right, but he sort of pushes it beyond what it is. Because it is, in fact, not real. But these are people, but he doesn't see it like that. He doesn't want to see it like that because he doesn't see himself as a person anymore. He doesn't see himself as humanity, as a human. He doesn't give himself humanity anymore. He feels like he's being forced into this world, again, which he has, and doesn't see a point in trying to retain what he once was. He has purposefully given up who he was in order to fit the situation he's currently in. You could call it adapting. I don't know if I would call it adapting, but it could be labeled as adapting to his environment and his scenario.
We're still people, though, right?
I thought we were at first, but as time goes on, we just end up falling into our archetypes.
So he's talking about how he doesn't see himself as human. He doesn't see everyone else as human. He'll talk more as well. He talks about, Gangle being the sad one, blah, blah, blah. He's the funny one. So he's put himself... Actually, I'll let him talk. I need to just stop talking and just...
Become part of the machine.
What's your archetype, then? The villain?
Listen,
You can see him get slightly annoyed at the fact that she said that because it sounds like she's making fun of him, which is something... This is also obviously something that is important to him. It's the way that he it's his belief system. It's the way that those really look like windows. It's the way that he functions, right? It's something that's obviously important to him, and poking fun at that is not something that he really likes, as we'll see more on.
I add a key dynamic. I see how far I can push things. I screw with people, and I break the fourth wall.
That is something as well. This is one of the only scenes that he has no fucking reflections in his eyes. He can see! Okay. So, we know that Jax, if you've been paying attention to Digital Circus episodes, you know that Jax can break the fourth wall. He can see that this is a show. He knows that this is a show, which I think that he's the only really character that has actively pointed that out, that this is actively a show. Caine talks about it a little bit, but Caine doesn't really understand the concepts in the same way that a person would, I don't think. Because when Caine talks about the committee later on in the press, he talks about it as something that is theoretically there, but he doesn't mean anything to him. Similar to Abstraction, we'll get into that. It doesn't mean anything to him. It's just something that's there. And that's always been there. It's the way it is. To Jax, as he was once a person, he understands what this is. It is fucked up reality TV show, essentially. Really, really fucked up reality TV show, because he knows that there are people watching him. And there isn't really anyone else that acknowledges that in terms of the main cast. Jax has pointed out, fourth wall breaks for episode. Many episodes have fourth wall breaks that Jax does. I initially saw it in the pilot and thought it was just a fun little thing, but it happens too much now for it to be pushed off as just, it's a fun little joke. No, he knows. And not only does he know, he understands and has an ability to communicate. Now, I don't know how canon this is. I'm going to say it's reasonably canon because it was posted officially by Glitch. But during the award show, in his little clip, he goes, "I've seen the fan art. There's something wrong with you guys."
Well, I could explain why you all should vote for me, but I'd just be wasting my breath. You losers will vote for me no matter what I say because you find me attractive. I've seen the art. There's something wrong with you guys.
Which means not only does he know that there is people watching him, he can see it. He can see all of the community interaction. He can see all of the community posts. He sees everything we say about him. There is a chance that Jax is seeing this video right now. Hey. Hey, man. Hope you don't mind me overanalyzing you to shit. Anyway. But that is such like a intense thing to think about. You get put into this world from this one because we can assume that this is the real world of the digital circus. You get put into this world where not only are you lose all concept of who you are, what you are, any defining features. You lose all of your family, all of your life, all of your friends. You don't know if you're aging. You don't know what even is the meaning of life anymore. And not only are you being watched by some sort of omnipotent god, I suppose. I can't even call that. He's not really that, but that's what it sort of seems like. But you are being watched by millions of people about your every move. And you're aware of it. And you know what they say. And no one else knows. No one else around you is aware. Could you imagine how devouring that would be? Now, I have a headcanon. This can't be true, unfortunately, because of just the way that some of it happens, but it's a fun thought for me to have. Because Jax is so aware of what is happening, I like to think that anytime we see a perspective shot of any of the characters, he can see the camera. He can actively see us seeing it happen. That can't be true because we watch him have a panic attack later on and we catch those slight expression changes, which if he could see the camera, he would be much more careful of. He obviously doesn't know when he's always being filmed, but he knows that he is. He knows that he's being filmed at some points, and he's able to break the fourth wall like this, which I think is a massive thing that also plays into why he doesn't treat anyone with respect, why he doesn't treat himself with respect, why and it's not just because he doesn't care, it's because he doesn't, it's not real. It's not human to him. They're not human. They're not people. They fall into these archetypes, and it's not a real scenario. And so he doesn't act real because he doesn't see himself as real anymore. It's so interesting. I don't know if I'm making sense. I'll get more into it as we watch more and I can show you examples of this.
Oh, you want to know why? It's because it's
And then
funny.
his fucking reflection comes back. I think the reflection, that's also why I think the reflection is important, is because that is like, it's just the fourth, from what I've noticed, it's just the fourth wall breaks where he doesn't have reflection in his eyes. That has to mean something.
I do everything because it's funny. Because I'm the funny one.
The funny one?
Yeah. Ragatha's the cheerful one, Gangle's the sad one, Kinger's the crazy one, Zooble's the grumpy one, and you are the one who hasn't figured that out yet. We all just became archetypes. I at least have the self-awareness to choose who I am.
See, okay. I will get more into this as well, especially later on, because there's a very specific scene that I need to say this with, but it's not this one. Jax has shoved himself in this little box of what he believes that he is. And it's very different from a lot of ways that people normally portray the egotistical but secretly nice archetype, because it's not in a way of, oh, deep down, I'm just masking and I'm being mean to everyone because I secretly care. He doesn't care. He doesn't give a shit. He genuinely, wholeheartedly believes that this is all he is. And this is all he's meant to be. And he doesn't want it to be different. Because, again, looking at the scenario he's in, how the fuck would you cope with that? I have a persona being on YouTube when it's like couple 100,000 people watching me, or like you know what I'm saying. Like, could you imagine being watched by, the pilot got 300 million views. Could you imagine being watched by 300 million people at all times? I would never want to be myself, especially when you can actively see what they're saying about you. Always. Like, I have no idea how Jax would get that information, if it's forced into his head, if he sees it by choice, if somehow he can see it through Caine, or there's some kind of connection. He has some kind of connection to the real world still. Again, no idea how. I don't even know if that's super canon because it wasn't in the show, it was in the awards show. But considering it was posted by Glitch and it was from Caine's perspective, like, because Glitch obviously also does like their little marketing campaigns, which none of those are canon, obviously. But considering this it didn't have any Glitch involvement in it, it was entirely Caine that set up the award show, and it also is acknowledged in the real show, I have a feeling that it's canon. Jax can actually see this shit, which is such like that breaks so many things of like why he acts this way, because he's still aware of us. He's still aware of this world, but that's the difference between him and every other character, is that they see it as, oh, we've been put in this digital world, but we're all still people. Like, we're all still people in this digital world, but we just have to like get out of here. It's just like oh no, puzzling situation. Jax knows it's a show. He's fully aware that this is a TV show. He may even know it's scripted. And then if we get even more meta, which I think is a little bit out of realism, but it's just a cool thought. If we get even more meta to do with Caine's ability to control people's minds, is Caine scripting all of this? Is Caine making this shit up? Is Caine a representative of Gooseworks? How different is Gooseworks and Caine? Because Goose voices, again, this is just a fun thought. I don't think it's realistic, but I think it's a fun thought. Goose voices a chunk of characters that are companions to Caine. Bubble, Moon. There's another one I've forgotten. Evil Pomni. Evil Pomni. Goose has come out and said that they have voiced all of those characters, which are all companions to Caine. Where does the line between reality and the indie animated digital circus show, where does that split? And I think that's a really fun thing to think about, is that as a concept of where's the break in reality? Where's the break between fiction and not? Because obviously, in actual full reality, it's a fictional show that's been scripted. But the question is, how much do they let that into the show? You know? Especially because it's a whole thing of the fact that Jax knows that it's a show. And he knows that there's a community, and he's seen it. It's not just that he knows, it's that he's seen it. He's interacted with it, which is such... Oh, it's so cool! Oh, I will never be able to get over how unbelievably well this show is written. Oh, okay. But yeah, more on the archetypes as well. When we're getting back into what is canon rather than just my insane theories, Jax has put himself in this little box, and he purposefully confines himself to that. And it's not... I think it's very different from a regular sort of mask on, mask off, because in those kind of situations, it's like when they're alone, they'll still admit to themselves that, oh, I do care about this person secretly. And it's like, oh, I do. I don't think he actually does. I'll get more into this because I've seen a lot of people in comment sections being like, well, no, obviously he cares. That's why he gets so angry later on. I don't think that's why. I'll point it out later when we get there.
So who do you want to be? No better chance than now to try something new. You want to go nuts? You want to finally work off those weeks of rage and anguish that have been building up inside you?
I will say with this scene as well, a lot of people interpreted this, especially initially on watching it, as Jax and Pomni bonding. He says this more later on, but I don't think this is them bonding, because the thing with Jax is that he doesn't see any of it as real, therefore he cannot form real bonds. He sees this as, oh, fuck. Oh. Okay, my entire theory from before is completely debunked. There's two of the mannequin doors. Fuck. Okay, ignore that. Okay, never mind. Ignore everything I said before. Okay, whoops. I will say it is still, the mannequin doors are still pointed out, but they could just be a placeholder now. What I was saying before, yeah, I don't think this is them bonding, because Jax doesn't see this as... The only extent he sees this, as he sees everyone, as he said before by the archetypes, he sees them all as characters. He doesn't see them as people. He sees this as a stage, as a play. He sees it all as acting. So this isn't bonding. He's interacting with Pomni to give the audience entertainment. That's it. It's very interesting. He sees this entirely as one big improv, is my perspective on it anyway.
I know you hate it here. Everyone does. But the silver lining is you can pretty much do whatever you want. Like, look at the way you're aiming that gun. Too realistic. Just let loose.
See, that's what I mean from before, is the way that things work in the digital circus are so illogical that Jax doesn't... Because deep down, the way that Jax goes about this is horribly wrong, but he is right. He's right in saying that this whole place is illogical. It doesn't make sense. There's no point trying to make sense of it, because that doesn't happen in real life. You don't not know how to hold a gun and then suddenly go, oh, and then immediately hit. That doesn't happen. And Jax knows that. I think, again, I said this before, but I'll say it again. Jax knowing that it's a show, I think also is a big perspective change on why he acts like this, because he doesn't see it as anything except a stage, as anything except a performance.
What the heck? Today, I'm just gonna be evil. How's that?
And I think this is also where Pomni, this is hard because
Go for it.
Jax sees this as, oh, Pomni's finally understanding how I see things, of the case of, it isn't real. There's no point trying to make it seem real. Just do whatever the fuck you want, because why the fuck not? Because nothing exists, no one's human. No one's actually human, we're all just part of a machine for an audience. So what's the fucking point in anything? Whereas Pomni sees this as, oh, he's just trying to have fun in a bad scenario. Jax has so many more layers of fucked up to him than I think anyone's quite realized. He has so many layers of self-manipulation and self-convincing, of him believing so heavily in what he believes in that it's become reality for him. He's living in a different world to everyone else. But it's like a different world inside a different world, because obviously the digital circus is entirely a different world. Do you know what I'm saying? Oh, God, I love this show. And Pomni sees this as, oh, we're bonding because he's trying to make the best out of a worse situation. Which he is, but not in the way that she thinks he is.
Yeah, those other fools better watch their tails, because they're going to face the wrath of Pomni the Evil!
It's kind of cringe.
I think as well, Pomni does, I'd say, like, understand the act at least a little bit, but the difference between Pomni and Jax on that level is that Pomni knows when to call it quits. Pomni knows when the act is over. Pomni knows when the fact that these are people, because Pomni hasn't let go of her humanity. She understands that she's still a person. She understands that everyone else is still a person. But she's willing to give in to the fact of looking to have a bit of fun, right? But the issue with Jax is that he doesn't see it as... he doesn't see it as something that's temporary. He doesn't see it as something you just turn off. It's just the way that things are.
Looks like we've located the king and the ragdoll.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, let's get him!
See, I think that specific look as well with Jax was him very much being like, dude, this is a show. I thought you understood that. Come on, be entertaining.
Don't even really know how to fire a gun.
There's a line which, okay, this, Goose has said, multiple people have said, I don't think Goose has said this actually, but people have said, also it's kind of general knowledge, not to take fan songs as, canon for the show. But there's a line in the end of, it's World of Everything. It's a line on the World of Everything that goes, we gotta be showstoppers even if we go insane. And I think that really does apply to the show more than it entailed to when they made the song. Because, especially in Jax's case, is that he sees this he only sees this as a show, right? So he doesn't care about losing his humanity, his insanity. He willingly will give them away because this is his meaning of life now.
Huh?
I'll take Rags, you go Kinger.
Rightio, evil bro.
I need a gun.
So this was definitely, when I saw Pomni doing this was definitely unexpected how quickly she turned into it. Like how unbelievably fast she played into the whole, oh, it's fun. It's a fun little, let's have fun. Like I figured, especially with something like shooting people, she would have a little bit more hesitancy to it, which granted she did. But again, like I said before, I think it's the difference in where Pomni knows when to stop and where to stop, whereas Jax doesn't.
Come on, man.
Jax, again, is also very theatrical about it. Because, he's very theatrical about everything. Because he just sees it as, it's for fun, it's for entertainment, none of it's real. There's no point in trying to be serious about it. There's no point in being scared. And I think he just enjoys pissing off Ragatha because she's easy to piss off, which... Jax is a jackass. I'm not ever gonna say that he isn't. He absolutely is. But that's the box he shoved himself into, is being a jackass. I don't think he's actually a jackass, but he can't not be one, is what I'm trying to say. Like, when he was a person, I don't think he acted like this. Maybe not at all. Maybe there was a little bit there. But I think if he was put into a situation again, maybe not now after all of this has happened, but like before all of this, I don't think he would actually act like this. This would have been, from my perspective, this would have been intrusive thoughts. This would have been stuff that he'd think about doing, or that would just sort of brush his mind. You know, people, it's a common thing. Maybe not. Impulsive thoughts, I guess, is the better way to put it, rather than intrusive. Intrusive is a little more severe. But impulsive thoughts of being like, oh, what if I just was really fucking mean to this person for no reason? And then in real life you go, no, why would you do that? Like, you would hurt their feelings. That's not a good thing to do. But in this world, he doesn't have any consequences. So he doesn't see a point. So all of his actions are just impulsive thoughts that in the real world he probably had, as most people do have impulsive thoughts to some extent of random shit. You know, sometimes you're fucking driving and it's like, what if I just rolled out, what if I opened the door right now randomly? And you'd never actually do it. But in this entire world, especially in Jax's perspective, it's completely illogical. Why not, right?
Really use another one of those butterflies!
Howdy, howdy.
I know exactly what you're doing with Pomni. It'll never work.
Huh?
You know, getting close with Pomni to corrupt her. Wait, no, wait.
I want to talk about this in a second.
Oh, wow. I didn't actually think that'd work.
This is the first time in this episode, and I think probably ever, that we've actually seen Jax get viscerally upset about something. It's so interesting. Now, why would what Ragatha said tip him off so much? Because clearly she said something, because he dropped the theatrics, he pulled out a real gun and shot her multiple times. Not just one to kill her. In all of the other times, he was trying to shoot to kill, or to shoot to make a joke, or to be funny, because that's all he sees himself as. That was out of anger. A genuine anger, which is something Jax doesn't like to feel. He doesn't like to feel anything except for the emotion that he has when he's making fun of people, when he's being funny, when he's fulfilling what he feels is his role. This is the first time we've really seen Jax actually get genuinely annoyed by something, I think. Or caught off guard. Either way, it breaks the act a little. And I'm going to refer to this as a lot as an act rather than a mask, because it isn't a mask, because he genuinely believes in all this stuff. It's not something he can turn off. It's not a mask he can take off. This is how he is, and this is how he's convinced himself to be, and this is all he knows. If we go back, I think...
Wait, no,
Wait.
Getting close with Pomni to corrupt her.
I think, considering we know Jax and Ragatha used to be friends, we don't know how close they were, but they definitely used to be friends. So hearing this probably hurt a lot. As well, Ragatha implying that this has happened before, being like, I know what you're doing, you're getting close with Pomni to corrupt her. That means that this is something that Jax would do, which on a surface level him just being egotistical, he would do this. But considering that they've had a previous, like, they've known each other for ages. They've interacted previously more in a different dynamic than they currently have. One that they used to be friends in, we believe. And my theory directly as to what this is talking about is, and why he gets so upset about this, is because it's to do with Ribbit. Now, I haven't talked about this much specifically because I wanted to talk about it more when we see more to do with Ribbit later on in the episode, but I'm going to talk about it now. So I think I put a trigger warning already in the beginning of the video, but trigger warning specifically for this bit with suicide allegories, and generally just that kind of mental health area. My theory, Goose said a while ago on Tumblr that we will see the worst thing Jax has done during the show. And my best guess towards this, which will support a lot of the reasons why I think everyone interacts with Jax the way that he does and the way that Jax interacts with the world, and especially these breaks in his act, the reason they come through is I think that Jax is responsible for Ribbit's abstraction. I don't know if this is a common theory or if this is something that has been brought up before, but I think that Jax is directly responsible for Ribbit's abstraction, and no one but him knows. I say that because, again, this is to do with the award show website, so I don't know how canon it is, but during the award show, that there's, in the little fun facts section, it cycled through, but there was one that said, this person knows the real reason for Ribbit's abstraction, or something similar. And that implies that generally it is not known to the main circus cast as why Ribbit abstracted, which leads me to believe that Jax is really the only person that actually knows why it happened. Because obviously once someone abstracted, they can't communicate anymore, they just become rabid. So there'd be no way to know. I will get more into this, but I'm going to say as a blanket reason, and then as we go through the episode, I'll show the evidence for why I believe certain things about this. But I think what probably happened is Jax has had this act, he's had this facade for a while now. And there was some point where, similar to the scene later on when Jax loses his shit at Pomni, something similar happened between Jax and Ribbit, and that caused Ribbit to abstract the next day. And I'll get more into this as we go along, but obviously abstracting has now not only become an allegory for death in this world, but it's also an allegory for suicide, which means that Jax is directly responsible for his friend's suicide. Which is a pretty intense thing to happen. And I think Ragatha saying, "Oh, you're gonna corrupt Pomni. You're gonna corrupt Pomni and do that," reignited some sparks in Jax of Pomni's gonna fucking kill herself, and it's gonna be his fault, and he can't deal with that again, because no matter how much and how much you try and mentally convince yourself you don't care about something, death in any scale in the real world, and especially in the circus, I'll get more into that, but in the real world as well, death is a very difficult thing to deal with. Whether it's someone that you've known for ages or met a few times, finding out that someone has died, especially via suicide, is a very mentally taxing, mentally draining thing to discover, and can have some pretty serious effects depending on the scenario, on mental health of everyone around. It's something that isn't to be taken lightly, and it's difficult to deal with, you know? And Jax tries to get himself to deal with it lightly and tries to pretend that he can't care. And it's not that deep down he does care. It's that often with these kind of things, as you'll see with the panic attack later on, especially, there's probably an actual medical term for it. I don't want to say it's PTSD because I don't know if it is, but it's definitely some form of physical trauma response of when you get scenarios that are like this, that are so severe, your body will betray you more than your mind will. Even if your mind is so utterly convinced on something, and a lot of, your body will betray you. You will have short breath, spikes of anxiety, adrenaline, panic attacks. It's something that you cannot control a lot of the time just by thoughts. It is a physical human reaction to stuff. Like when people go through very difficult situations, if there's any kind of reminder getting re-triggered by that, it'll be your body that betrays you a lot of the time, even if your mind doesn't believe it. It's a very difficult thing to deal with.
Oh, wow. I didn't actually think that'd work.
I think that the reason that Jax has a reaction so severe to this is because whether she meant to or not, Jax has taken this as Ragatha essentially implying that he will be responsible for Pomni's death. Again. Like, a friend's death, a friend. Like, someone else's death again. And he's angered by that. He's upset by that because he probably doesn't want to take the blame for Ribbit's death. He probably doesn't. He will try every mental gymnastic to tell himself that it wasn't his fault. He will know deep down that it probably was. Whether he will ever admit that to himself or not. Because he doesn't need to. Because his body will, which is why he will have panic attacks and why he will have moments like this where he gets unreasonably angry, is because he knows that that was his fault and he will never be able to deal with that. Again, this is my theory. I think it makes a lot of sense given the evidence that we have, but it could be not true in any way. This whole thing is subjective on whether Ribbit's abstraction was caused by Jax. This is the first example of that. I will show you more as we go through because there's a lot of them in this. This is very much the first one of like, he really like loses control of himself, which doesn't happen a lot for Jax. Jax is very good at putting up this facade that he genuinely believes in. Again, there are time snaps like this that a lot of the time you can't think. It's brain fog. There's a lot going on. Fast breathing. I've been there. You can't think through that. That's not a situation you can think through. A lot of the time, at least with this kind of stuff that I've personally experienced, I'm not going to go into it, obviously, but when you get into that state of your body is more in control than your mind is, there's not really a lot of coherent thoughts there. It's very much brain fog and constant noise that doesn't really mean anything. It's just feeling. It's just a lot of like devouring feeling, which I think Jax experiences every time he doesn't put the show on, which is why he does it. Well, probably not entirely, but that is probably part of it, is that if he doesn't, that happens.
I lost Kinger, but I got him down to 1 life.
I lost a life, but I got us down to 1 Kinger.
How'd you let her take a life off you?
I don't really know.
Okay. Another few little details. First, the switch up, obviously, as soon as Pomni comes back, immediately puts back on the act, immediately goes, shit, I have to perform. And I don't think that's just because of Pomni. I think it's because of himself. He caught himself off guard by letting that go down, because this isn't something that he does just around other people, I'd imagine. Like, I think that any time that he is conscious that he is being watched by anyone, Caine, the audience, anything, he will put this on because it is him. It's him. It's hard to explain, but it is him. Like, at a surface level, this is him. This is what he wants to be. It's not actually what he wants to be, but it's what he thinks he wants to be. I also will point out too, I saw someone point it in an Instagram comment section that Jax has been very forgetful this episode. And a big thing with trauma a lot of the time, especially of this kind of nature, is you lose a lot of your memory. Like, big chunks of like traumatic events are just wiped. Again, this is something I have experienced as well. It's just fucking gone. Your short-term memory goes to shit. I find it difficult to articulate if you haven't experienced it, because people that have experienced this kind of thing know what I'm talking about, but people that maybe haven't, it's hard to articulate because it isn't rational. It's not something that makes sense. It's not something you can explain. It's feeling. And it makes it incredibly difficult to break out of because you don't know a lot of the time. It's not something you know is happening. But it's so interesting. And especially to see it so well portrayed in media like this, where you can see through it, but not enough to make it obvious. You can see through every layer, but it's only something you can really see if you know how he thinks. if you can understand the perspective of what he thinks and how he's thinking. And it's just, oh, Goose. Oh. Okay, I'll keep going with this. But I think just the main point of that was that the memory loss, I think, is something to do with that, because he goes, I don't really know. And that could just be like him making a joke of like, how did she do that? What? It could also be him being caught off guard. I don't think it would have been wiped from his memory, but sort of just like oh, that was weird. How did that happen? Kind of thing. Of like, how did I let that happen? Rather than anything. Anyway, you know what I'm trying to say.
It's all just a game in the
Gangle and
end.
Zooble.
It's Jax, though. He probably wants revenge. And he's gonna make it painful.
Hey,
I would love to see how the rest of the characters would react to Jax knowing the way that he sees the world. Like, if they could see the world through the way he sees the world, I wonder how differently they would react. Because Gangle obviously sees Jax as a bully. There's nothing to it. He is an asshole, and he does this to cope. He's mean to people to cope. Which is true, but it's not quite that surface level. Which is why Gangle is worried about Jax getting revenge and all this stuff. But the thing I think to do with Jax that Gangle doesn't quite get is that it isn't a personal thing. And at least in my eyes, it isn't a personal thing. He does it to Gangle because it's easy, but he doesn't care about Gangle. He doesn't care about any of them. So he's just picking on people it's easy to pick on. And he won't do something if it's not funny. Like, he doesn't actually give a shit. He's not actually a bully, because he doesn't actually give a shit. He's doing it to be funny because that's all he thinks that he needs to do. He should do. So this whole thing of Gangle being worried about, oh, Jack's wanting revenge, oh, Jack's gonna be mad, blah, blah, blah. Like, I understand it from her perspective, obviously, but that's why I'd love to see what they would all think if they saw the world through his eyes, of the way that he thinks, in that it's not, he doesn't see them as people. So it's not personal because they're not people. None of them are. None of them are humans. It's an act, it's a stage.
These Avatar gimmicks, huh?
That's what I was talking about before.
Makes you wonder why no one else got them.
Initially, when I heard that, I was confused what she was talking about, but I understand it's like the extra pieces of that only Gangle and Zooble really have, is that their physical appearance changes how they interact with the world. Because Kinger, Jax, Pomni, like, they're all, obviously they all look weird, but they're not, they don't have a separate function, you know? Like, the pieces of Zooble and the mask of Gangle actively change how they interact with the world, because they work differently. It probably is some sort of allegory for, you know, real world comparisons, in terms of Zooble's is being non-binary or trans, I imagine, in the way that they feel as though they are built different in terms of like, oh, why do we have these Avatar characters? It makes me wonder why we're the only ones, in terms of how I'm not trans, so I can't really speak on this too much, but from what I know about it, it feels very much of like, at least I can speak from this from like, I guess, an ADHD perspective more than a trans perspective, in the way of that, like, it's like, why do I have to have ADHD? Why can't, like, this feels so unfair, in terms of, because it can be very debilitating with a lot of stuff. Why didn't anyone else get this? It just doesn't, it's not fair. And life isn't fair. And everyone's built the way that they are, and they're built different. But I feel like this ties very heavily into how Gangle and Zooble have their avatars, in that it's some sort of, it's something that makes them different, that they don't necessarily want or love. And that's what Zooble talks about later on, of you have to learn to love it. It's a choice. It's who you are. Whether you're happy about it or not, it is who you are.
How are you supposed to like the part of yourself that just makes you worse than everyone else?
It ties into a lot of different things. It's pretty much anything that makes you stereotypically out of the norm of a person. I think this could be an allegory for any of those things. Disability, being LGBTQ, you know, many things in that front of that. It makes you an outlier, and it makes the world more difficult for you. But it's a very interesting way that Goose decides to portray it here. I really like it.
'Cause it exists. It's a part of you that's real. And the only you that you should care about is the real you.
Now that is an interesting sentence. I would love for Jax to hear that and see how he would react to that. I know he would probably be like, whatever, because it's Zooble. But in terms of Zooble having such a grasp still on their humanity, and Gangle less so, but still there, Zooble understands that they're a person. Which I think is why they're also so, like, they hate going on the adventures so much. They hate playing into the world that they're in. They hate the parts. They're just upset all the time because they're still a human. They understand that they're still human and they want to be that. They're not letting go. They're not giving up on who they are, which is incredibly admirable, especially for the situation that they're in. Whereas Jax is very much the other way, that he's completely given up on himself as a person, which is why he treats everyone else like that too. He's given up on everyone else as a person. He pushes everyone into little boxes of who they are. It really just shows the separation between the characters and how they view the world so differently.
You have to choose to love yourself, even if it doesn't make sense.
This is so sweet.
It's not natural, it's intentional.
Have you ever had to make that choice?
Huh?
Sorry, I mean...
Again, this is something I mentioned before about every single character having a little bit of self-hatred. The way that Zooble reacts to this, well, let me actually let it play.
Of course not. You're Zooble.
This is adorable, by the way. But yeah, the way that Zooble reacts to this, you can see that they've definitely thought about that. Zooble has expressed before they have issues with, body image in terms of their parts not fitting right. They switch up their parts every episode. This is something they've all had to struggle with on some level, is self-image issues, like self-confidence, how they view themselves, which is a very human thing to do, especially when you've all been chucked into a world that you aren't yourselves anymore. It's like on a physical standpoint. You're not physically yourself. You don't know your name. Those two in society, those two things are what defines you normally. Those are that's what's normally told to define you at a very basic level, is what you look like and your name. That's how people identify you. That's just generally. Obviously there's voices as well, which is different, but as a very, very basic point, that's sort of how you're identifiable. And going into the circus, you lose both of those things completely. Personalities change. Personalities are subjective as you grow. So you can say your personality will stay the same, but over life, generally, even outside of the digital circus, your personality changes a shit ton throughout your life. You don't just stay one thing forever. The only thing that really stays consistent, relatively, is your appearance and your name. Again, relatively, certain situations that can change. This is just a generalization. Having that be swapped so heavily in the digital circus makes sense why Jax broke. That's it. It makes sense why Jax broke. It makes sense why all of the characters have issues with self-images and self-confidence, because they've lost two things that define who they are, that are such, in regular society, such core parts of your identity, is they've been completely lost. And they've been put in a new situation. So it makes sense to me so much that every character has issues with, or as has had in Kinga's case, issues with who they are.
Whatever happens, I've got your back if you've got mine.
Yeah.
But these two still understand the concepts of humanity and friendship and socialization, which is something I think Jax has completely let go of.
Now let's go
and
kill
like society.
Pomni and Jax.
I love their little cat faces. All of them do little cat faces occasionally. Not at all to do with that, but very cute. Okay, here we go.
What's with the corn thing?
What corn thing?
Why are you afraid of corn? And don't say that you're not. You literally jumped out of your seat twice when you saw some.
Not gonna let me out of this one. Well, I don't know. It's got a bunch of little pods on it. Looks kind of like an egg sac or something. It's gross. Makes my skin crawl.
I love that his ears shake during that. That was just a lovely animation detail.
Interesting. Do you have like a type of trypophobia?
What's
I
that?
thought it was
The fear of
trypophobia.
lots of little holes.
Yeah.
Okay. How about pomegranates?
Awful.
I'm learning a lot about you today.
That is such an interesting note. Pomni goes, I'm learning a lot about you today. Jax doesn't, obviously we've seen before, Jax does not like people actually knowing him. He doesn't let anyone in, ever. Because he doesn't think it's worth it. He doesn't think he should. He doesn't think there's a point. I believe, for various reasons that I've listed already. But I think specifically this one as well is even something as simple as what he's afraid of. The fact that Pomni knows that now is bad. Even something as simple as that is something that gets to him of going, oh shit, I've said too much. Because immediately after this, look.
Let's not forget we're here to kill people.
He goes right back into the point of the episode, the point of the show. Soon as there's ever... this happened in episode 5 as well with when they were all talking about their pasts. Soon as there's something that aligns with him too heavily to who he actually is, instantly shuts it off. Immediately. And I don't think it's that he's scared to open up. I think it's that he doesn't see a point. He doesn't see a reason to. He doesn't see a point in trying to pretend that he's human. He is human, but he doesn't think he's human. He's convinced himself that he's not. So he doesn't see a point in showing human emotion. He doesn't see a point in reminiscing on human times. Like he said before, they're all cartoons. They're all cartoon characters. There isn't a point in any of that. So why dwell on it? Why focus on it when you have other things to be doing? Like killing people and being funny and entertaining people. I think it's so interesting that he's so sensitive to that even something as little as Pomni going, oh, I know I'm learning more about you, because he's afraid of corn and like has trypophobia, whatever, however you say it, you know what I'm talking about. Even that sets him off. Not completely, obviously, but even that triggers something of going, oh, I've said too much.
We still need to find out where Nutso went before we can rest easy.
This is funny.
I'm right behind you, aren't I?
I love this scene so much. The anime, like everyone who worked on this scene did such a gorgeous job.
There he is!
Whoops, sorry.
I hope you guys are ready for my ricochet super move!
Oh, here's the light.
There is an interesting thing. Again, I might be reading way too far into this, but all the other characters, apart from Kinger, whenever they do try and do something that's like crazy with the gun or whatever, it works. Always works, except Kinger when he does this. This could just be a comedic thing. I know Goose does do a lot of stuff that's just like, oh, that was for funny. Like how Gangle didn't have an evil clone in episode 5. Goose came out and was just like, yeah, I just thought it'd be funny. So it could have just been a comedic effect thing. I might be reading way too far into it. But like when Jax does like crazy shit, when he does like the spin thing, when Pomni does crazy shit, it works. When Zooble gets all the guns, when like Gangle does that, it goes in like a perfect circle. It works for all of them except Kinger. Why? It could be, again, more to do with he created the circus, he has more power than he's giving on, but it could just be for funny.
Who knew Pomni could be such a sharpshooter? These adventures, huh? And look, even though we lost, at least we gave it our all, right? You feeling all right?
I think this is such a good, like, demonstration of Ragatha's headspace, because you can see how much is going on in her head, to the point that it's Ragatha who wants to make everyone happy all the time, doesn't like putting her issues on other people, is silent. Dead silent. She doesn't want people worrying about her ever, and she's dead silent. That's how much this is affecting her.
Are you upset that we lost? Are you upset about something else? You want to talk about it?
I think I might have failed Pomni. Just like I failed Jax.
Very interesting thing for her to say. One first big thing, Ragatha clearly views relationships as something that can be failed or completed or succeeded. There is an end goal, which is not how relationships work, obviously. She sees her purpose to make everyone else happy and to help other people. She sees it as a one-sided thing that Kinga points out later. She sees it as very one-sided, it's her job to do something. She doesn't see it as a companionship. She sees it as she must do something. She's responsible for these people, basically. That's what she sees friendship as, is that it's her responsibility for them to be happy. And it doesn't go both ways. Especially with Jax, she is, by saying she failed Jax, she's completely given up on him. Like, completely and utterly given up on him. She doesn't believe that he can get out of this headspace that he's put himself in, and she can't do anything anymore to help him, and he's just going to go around and make everyone else worse. Which I get, but it's such a cynical outlook. Which is ironic for Ragatha, because she's meant to be all about positivity and cheerfulness. But saying that you failed Jax, that he has failed, means that she doesn't believe at all that he can get better at all. Which, yeah, is just intense overall, I think, more than anything. It's a very black or white perspective on a friendship, which isn't how friendships work. It's never black and white like that. And she's lost hope in him and is now worried that Pomni is going to go down the same route. I think her main error is believing that Jax he's all gone. Obviously, it is not her responsibility to fix him, nor should she have to worry about that. But if she's going around feeling like she's failed people, she clearly does make it her responsibility. I don't know. All of these characters have their very own different, unique outlook on what the world is. The real one and the digital one and the people inside of it. Every character has a slightly different outlook on how the digital circus should be perceived. Which I think also contributes really well to the writing of every character. I think Ragatha is also one of those characters that is incredibly well written. She's an amazing character. I think all of them are. Yeah, I think I said this before, but I think all of them are I like all the characters. I'm not going to be someone that would be like, oh, I hate this character. No, I love all of them. I think they're all incredible.
Try too hard to get on their good side, and then I just end up pushing them away. And they end up hating me.
Well, I don't think anyone in here hates you.
Jax does! Gangle and Zooble don't ever talk to me, and Pomni probably won't after today either.
The thing with Jax is interesting because it's slightly, I feel like Jax and Ragatha's relationship versus Jax and Gangle's relationship is so similar, but it's so different. Because obviously I don't know we haven't really seen much of Jax and Gangle's relationship in the past, if it's always been like this, if it's different. But we know for a fact, I spoke on this before, we know for a fact that Jax and Ragatha's relationship was different in the past, that they used to be friends at some point. I said about Gangle and Jax is that it probably isn't personal there. Jax's opinion on Gangle and continuously bullying Gangle isn't a personal thing. He does it because he thinks it's entertainment. He does it because he thinks he's entertaining the audience. He's being funny. He's the funny one. That's why he does everything. And it's not a personal thing. It's not to do with Gangle. It's just because she's easy to pick on. Whereas with Ragatha, it might be slightly different because they did have history. I don't know if Jax does hate Ragatha. I don't think he likes Ragatha, but I mean it in a way of that if Jax is even slightly exposed, like his actual core is even slightly exposed to anyone, as we'll see with Pomni, he goes ape shit. He loses his shit. He gets so unbelievably angry and defensive. And I don't think that means that he hates Ragatha, but it means that at some point, especially from what she's saying about failing him in the past, at some point, she has opened that cage too far. She's opened that door too far. She's pushed him too far that he has disassociated from her, stepped back, doesn't want to talk to her, and now treats her as if she was Gangle, as if she was just someone easy to pick on. Again, I might be looking too far into this. This might be just a similar thing. It's that Jax hates everyone on surface level, and then it's not a personal thing and he's doing it to entertain people. But I think because of Ragatha and Jax used to have a friendship, or what we can perceive as a friendship, I don't think Jax ever really has had friends in the circus. I don't think ever since he has come into this act of what he is, he's really ever had friends. Because Ragatha, I think, was there before Jax was there, They might have been genuine friends before that, before Jax adopted this persona, and this belief of this and this abandonment of humanity. They may have been friends before that, like genuinely, but since then, I don't think Jax has ever had an actual bonding moment with anyone. Maybe except for Ribbit. Again, we don't know much about Ribbit, but in recent times, definitely not. Like, especially not with Pomni. As much as we'd all love to believe that they were growing and bonding with each other, I don't think they were. Yeah, I'll talk more about it when we get to the scene. You know the scene I'm talking about, the scene.
Well, don't ever talk to me, and Pomni probably won't after today either. She came to me wanting to be on my team. I said no.
I also did mention as well before, but I'll bring it up again now. I think it's just a very much in terms of like a general front. I think Ragatha and Pomni just see Ragatha's actions in a different way. Ragatha's obviously doing it out of desperation to try and help people. She has this need to help people because a lot of the time, if someone hates themselves, they're often try and make everyone else happier to try and account for that. But that's not how that works. No matter how much service you do for everyone else, you are the only person that can contribute to you loving you more. In an attempt to try and make herself feel more fulfilled and to feel happier, she will do everything for everyone else. But because she's not fully doing it out of their needs, she's doing it out of her own, it doesn't exactly translate the same. Because if she was fully doing, she's definitely not doing it on purpose, isn't it? It isn't intentional. But if she was doing these things and these acts for other people genuinely to try and maintain a stable relationship, she would give them space when they need space. And she'd be okay with that. And she wouldn't get upset about it because it wouldn't worry her. But it's because it is also coming from a place of she needs the validation from it. She needs to feel like she's helpful. She needs to feel like she's loved. So she's accidentally pushing it too hard and too far. Ragatha! Oh, God! Gooseworks, you know how to play with my heartstrings. Jesus. There is a Ragatha fan out there that will dissect this about 1,000,000 times more and better than I will. She's not my area of expertise. I love her. I think she's very well written, but she's not what I've dived heavily into. There is a Ragatha fan out there who understands her character much better than I do.
Sounds to me like you put a lot of pressure on yourself to be there for everyone, and when you're not, you beat yourself up for it. You said you failed Pomni. Why do you feel that way?
I don't know. I feel like every day we're drifting further apart. Like she's seen through all my tricks and doesn't trust me anymore.
Like she's seen through all my tricks and doesn't trust me anymore. That's an interesting thing to say, because I don't think Ragatha's, obviously, that sentence on its own seems like Ragatha's doing this with malicious intent. She's not, obviously. It's similar to the thing that Jax brought up in episode 5 of Ragatha being like, if someone tells you they're loved and appreciated so much, it kind of starts to lose all meaning, which is something, honestly, I understand. Actions always speak louder than words is a big thing. It means that it doesn't feel necessarily real, because a lot of the time, because the issue is that Ragatha is doing this out of a need for self-validation. She's doing this because she needs everyone else to know how much they're loved because she doesn't feel loved. But the problem with that is that she's not taking into account what they actually want, which is not this. But Ragatha doesn't know how else to make herself feel whole and make herself feel okay and make herself feel like a good person. Again, there's a Ragatha fan out there that will understand this about 1 billion times more than I will, but those are my takes.
Before I know it, she'll be a different person. One who doesn't even want me around.
Before I know it, she'll be a different person. That sounds like it's in reference to Jax. I have a feeling that Jax, well, I guess Ragatha was there before Jax, because from what we can guess, Kinger was there first, Ragatha was there second, because what Kinger says after this, and then Jax came in some point after that. And Jax is kind of a completely different person when he's being all, Jax-like. You know what I'm saying? Like, when he's being all entertaining, when he's being the funny one, he could totally be a completely different person, but it's not something he can switch on and off anymore. That's become who he is now. But it wasn't always.
The way I see it, relationships are two-sided, and sometimes it doesn't make sense to do all the heavy lifting when the other isn't in the mood.
I liked the fish thing there. That was really smart to have the two fish swim away like it's Jackson Pomni from Ragatha. That was smart.
Through and deal with things differently. And sometimes you just need to let people do things their own way. As long as you're still there when they need you. Giving someone space should never be the same as giving up on them.
That's really like a good point that I think should hopefully shake Ragatha's mentality a bit. I don't know if it actually will. I don't know how she'll respond to this, but she was so set. She has been for a while, been so set that she failed Jax, she failed Pomni, but she hasn't taken into account that that's not how relationships work. You don't fail someone. Someone isn't failed. No one is ever stuck as they are. Times are constantly changing. People are constantly changing based on their interactions, their environment, the things that they're like existing within. No one is ever static forever. People change constantly. Anything can shake up your life, your personality, everything consistently, like anytime. And I think that's what Ragatha isn't quite taking into account, is that Jax probably won't be like this forever. Whether it depends on how the show ends, but whether he stays in the circus, whether he abstracts, whether he gets out, whether he goes a different way, his personality will always be changing. And that's one thing about him as to why he despises showing any human emotion, is because he doesn't want that change. Change is terrifying for like most cases, and this isn't any different.
I don't even know what I want.
Yeah.
I just want everyone to be happy.
Yeah.
I don't want people to hate me.
Oh.
Do you hate yourself?
You would be surprised how many issues come from self-hatred. There's a lot. There's a lot of stuff that if you think about something in your life that sucks, and then you really dig deep through it of, why do I think that? Where does this come from? Why do I do that? When did this happen? When did this start happening? What caused that? So much shit stems from self-hatred that you do not even realize stems from that. Like I was saying with Ragatha's need for being nice to everyone, wanting everyone to be happy, comes from a need for validation because she doesn't give it enough to herself because she hates herself. They all stem from the same place. They're all like, every character in this all stems from the same thing. It's just they process it in different ways, which is such incredible writing because it's very similar to real life.
I hated myself. I couldn't help but hate myself for the things I thought I was responsible for. I thought I'd lost everything. But then you showed up.
I talked about this before, but I'm going to point it out because the scene's in front of me now. He totally made this place. Saying that he hated himself for everything he thought he was responsible for, creating this world in itself, this hell that you cannot get out of, that you're stuck in. His wife abstracting, losing her, first dragging her into this place and then losing her. That would destroy you. I couldn't begin to imagine that. My cat is here. Hello, Chocolate. He's going to be part of this video now.
And my outlook just changed.
It is an interesting case of him saying that his outlook changed after Ragatha showed up, in terms of that she changed his opinion. I don't really know how that would work other than just like she was just fun to be around. We don't really know how Ragatha actually was when she first joined the circus, if she's changed a lot or like what since then. We don't know much about the past, but it could just be because she's nice. I don't know. There isn't a lot to go off of here.
There are always ways to show you care without ruining yourself over it. You need to look out for yourself in all this, too.
I don't get it. So often nothing you say makes any sense.
I would like to say, I know I've talked about this a lot. The windows are in Ragatha's eyes as well. I'm just saying.
But then you have these moments where you... I don't know.
They really look like windows.
How do you do that? How have you been around for so long?
I guess I just have a resilient
And
mind.
they're in Kingers too. I guess I just have a resilient mind. Yeah, that again just ties into abstraction. There isn't much to say about that.
It's time.
Why'd you stop shooting? You out of ammo?
Why'd you stop? You out of ammo?
Pomni, got any ammo left?
I have one in the cylinder and one sniper round, but no sniper rifle.
Crap.
Again, yeah, it's just what I was saying before about Gangle and Zooble. It's just Gangle gets to have her mask on moment, I guess, where she's like super chaotic, maniacal, psychopathic. Gangle's got a shit ton of built up rage, most likely, so this is probably just that. But, I mean, get it, girl.
Daisy, Daisy, give me your answer.
Are you seriously gonna start singing that?
I remember seeing this scene for the first time and going, oh, the Funny Buddy shippers are gonna lose their shit. I don't personally ship anyone in the show, but I just saw that and went, oh, they're gonna be so excited.
I'm half crazy, all for the love of you. It won't be a stylish
This,
marriage.
again, also just goes into like how they're both sort of doing this in, oh, it's a show kind of way. Because I don't feel like Jax would ever sing normally, but if it's to piss someone off or to entertain the audience.
I can't afford a carriage, but you'll look sweet upon.
You see what I mean by there's so much emphasis on this door? Why? Why do they put so much emphasis on this door? Like, I don't know. I know my theory before got proven wrong because there's two of them, but like, why? Why is there so much is this, Goose, are you just playing with me? Is this just a coincidence?
A seat of a bicycle built for two. Oh wait, I have a key to Zooble's room.
He looked in the camera direction there too.
I can get him.
Wait!
Trust me, partner, I got this.
Again, why are you showing so much emphasis on the door? Okay, wait, this is something interesting. Okay, let's analyze this quickly. Kaufmo. So, Jax's reaction to both Kaufmo and Ribbit is very, very different. I haven't quite figured out. I want your theories on this. I don't know or fully understand what Jax and Kaufmo's relationship was or why he reacts to Kaufmo the way he does. Because Kaufmo gets brought up again later on, but when in response to Kaufmo and looking at the abstracted door of Kaufmo, he just looks kind of embarrassed, I guess, kind of angry and annoyed, but embarrassed and not in the way that he normally does when the act breaks for a minute. I don't know if he's annoyed about Kaufmo or it's hard to explain because we knew so little about Kaufmo and Jax's relationship. So it's very hard to try and pinpoint the emotion that he feels towards Kaufmo. I think my best guess is that Jax has this, I don't know if it's hatred, but it's something similar towards people that abstract because he is annoyed at them for giving up, I guess, or thinks it's pathetic, thinks it's weak because multiple reasons, honestly, could be the case for that. A, it could be part of he's just an asshole. B, it could be part of that he hasn't abstracted, so why the fuck should they get to? That kind of thing. Like, he's still here. He still has to live through this. Why do they? Why do they get to leave? You know? Well, it's not really leaving. I'll get more into this later. I have an entire, analysis on abstraction in itself. But he looks relatively annoyed when looking at Kaufmo and thinking about Kaufmo's abstraction, which I think is what he generally feels towards abstractions rather than just Kaufmo specifically. Hi, okay, editing caboodle overriding this. I talk here about how in the pilot there's a line where Zooble says, "Man, I can't believe Kaufmo just gave up like that. I figured you would be next, Kinger." I thought it was Jax who said it initially, but it still ties very heavily into the point that I'm going to go on later on how Abstraction is treated very, very casually in the circus. And that's what I was kind of trying to prove here with Jax, is how he has been forced to treat this thing that's as in-depth as death or abstracting as something so casual because of his scenario. Jax also says a line afterwards, just goes to show you can't rely on Kinger for anything, which we have to remember abstracting is essentially dying in this universe. So it's treated very casually by the cast. He treats it as just like a bad thing. It's like you're giving up. Oh, okay, I see you're giving up. You fucking loser. Like, he treats it like that. But when it comes to Ribbit, he is scared. That is a mix of fear, probably a mix of guilt, which is, again, this is more evidence as to why I think Jax directly caused Ribbit's abstraction by saying something to them. I think he moves back slightly too. Wait. Yeah, okay. So he has a moment of, like, fear. He doesn't move backwards, but he has that deep breath of when he's just stuck in it. He's just stuck there for a second. I'd say the persona breaks a little, but just for half a minute. And then he blinks. He's brought back into, I'm entertaining people. I have to go be funny. And then runs off to go find Pomni. But I think it's very interesting, specifically just between how Jax reacts to abstraction generally and how he reacts to Ribbit's abstraction specifically. Because abstraction isn't obviously a good thing, but Jax pushes it off as something that's a lot more casual than it is. I will talk about that more later. This is also what I mean about being illogical. Like the world generally. The fact this works is insane. Even Zooble calls it out.
That's actual bullshit. Ow.
This is such a sick scene.
Man, guess that's the end of that. See you on the flip side.
Where did they get cat ears? Where did that come from? Did Kinger just because Kinger obviously could create things. Did Kinger make these? Did Bubble make these? Did Caine come and be like, you want entertainment? Cat ears? Where did that? I'm thinking too much into this, but where?
What?
Oh, here we go.
We did it! We make such a good team.
Well, to be fair, our competition wasn't anything crazy.
Now, I am not going to go through all of this. If you want to watch the scene if you haven't seen the scene before, go watch the episode, go watch the scene. It is incredible. Incredible scene. So I'm going to keep pausing it throughout this, just to point out every little detail. First off, the hug, right? Obviously, there's a hug here that Jax is not comfortable with happening.
We make such a good team.
I'm going to say my best guess is that Jax hasn't been hugged in a very long time. Probably since Ribbit abstracted. And that's a long time to not be hugged. That is probably a very weird feeling for him. It probably has a lot of very intense emotions that come with it. He's probably touch-starved as hell, which means out of the blue, Pomni hugging him probably brought back a lot of instant memories of Ribbit and a fear of an actual bond. Something I somehow missed while recording this, but now see upon reflection of watching back the footage, is that Jax is actually happy for about a split second when he gets hugged by Pomni, which I think plays into that whole thing of he's probably very touch-starved, and the last person that probably hugged him was either Ragatha or Ribbit from before everything went bad with both of them. He probably did let himself enjoy it as that was just an instinctual reaction to a hug, because generally a hug feels good, and then all of those memories came flooding back. He got re-triggered with a lot of shit, and it made him scared. That's probably the biggest thing, is that a hug to him means an actual friendship, an actual bond. Pomni isn't, this is the moment I think that he realizes that Pomni wasn't just seeing the world from the perspective that he was seeing the world in, like he thought initially when they were bonding, I guess, in the first bit. But this is the bit where he goes, oh shit, she actually has a connection to me. She wants to be friends with me. Fuck.
Well, to be fair.
But again, he's not gonna acknowledge that because he's Jax. So he's just gonna go back to being funny because that's all he thinks he's worth.
Our competition wasn't anything crazy.
Yeah, true.
But you can see that this sticks in his mind. You can see that this hug, this possibility of a friendship is haunting him. I'm not going to sit here and pretend and say that Jax doesn't care about Pomni. But I see a lot of comments on Instagram posts of people being like, oh my god, he cares so much. He cares so much. This is all like so deep down. I don't think that's true. I don't think that's true. I will get into it when we watch the scene. I need to stop interrupting myself.
I suppose this is the part where one of us betrays the other.
Huh? Oh, yeah. You can betray me.
Oh, I thought this was gonna be a mutual thing.
Nah, go on. Do it.
I don't really want to.
Lame. Come on. I thought you were cool.
We could just be winners.
Here, this is Jax not only trying to be entertaining, but also this is him actively trying to break whatever bond, like the start of that, trying to break whatever bond that Pomni attached to him. Theoretically, you could say that he also cares about her and is trying to break that off as well. I think that's harder to do, like harder to assume because of Jax's mentality, because of how detached he actually is from the situation that he's in, because he fully believes this is all he is. Again, these are all my headcanons for what this is. This is not like canon. Anything I say in this video isn't canon. I'm just saying what I think is true. You could say that Jax is also doing this to try and sever a bond between him and Pomni, but I think it's more of, from how he reacts, it seems more of just like the shock element of, oh shit, she genuinely cares about me. That's bad, is essentially what I'm getting from this, is him going, that's bad. That's bad. That needs to stop. I don't want that. Stay the fuck away from me, basically.
As a team.
We're
and he's
not a
trying
team.
to.
Come on.
What do you mean? Yes, we are.
Delusional.
And the only way he knows how to push people away is by being a dick and being funny. Because that's all he's done. Forever. Or not forever, but I've talked about that.
Kind of bonding over being chaotic evil together.
I was merely entertaining you because I thought it was funny. Now are you gonna shoot me or what?
Did I do something wrong?
You sound like...
Yes. Pomni, you didn't know that you did, but that hug was too much for Jax. It was too much for him, and he wasn't okay with it, and he realized that this could be an actual friendship, and doesn't want to do that because he's not being real. He's not being himself. And equally as well, the version that Jax got along with was Pomni also not being herself. Which could also just be a fucking stab in the chest to Jax of realizing that Pomni isn't the way that he saw her like that. Which, it's hard because he knows deep down that that's not how he is, but he doesn't know that. You know, he's manipulated and convinced himself so heavily that this is how he is. He's shoved himself into that stereotype box so heavily that this is how he is. And he was excited to see Pomni, someone also taking up that role of following into the box and just having fun. And now Pomni is using that and saying, wasn't this bonding? Why are you being weird now? But from Jax's POV, it's probably the same question of, why are you being weird now? Why are you being so, like, serious? That's the issue with trying to be friends with someone when you're not being yourself, you know?
You sound like Ragatha.
He even says that.
No wonder we're not a team.
No, I mean, we were doing fine, having fun, talking. But you suddenly
You're not committing. Do it.
That's an interesting one. You're not committing. So he keeps being like, oh, shoot me, you're not committing. As in, you know, talking about entertaining people, being funny. This is a very interesting scene because I think this shows more about him than he wanted it to. This is something I'm going to go into, again, deep topics now, like very deep topics now, and I'm going to talk about my take on the concept of abstraction. So Abstraction in the Circus is obviously an allegory for death. We've talked about this. And it's an allegory for suicide. We've also mentioned this gets shown more in the episode. I'll talk about it then when it comes up too. But the only reason Jax hasn't abstracted is because he doesn't want to abstract. He wants to die. He doesn't want to just, because abstraction isn't death. You're still conscious. You're still around. You just get sent to a basement. There's no escape, even in death. Because the thing with suicide is that people commit suicide because one of the reasons is because they don't want to be on the planet anymore. But the issue with abstraction is that it's not suicide because you don't leave. You're still there. You're still conscious, because we saw the scene with the abstraction of Queenie and Kinga. It's still you. It's really fucked up and it's very different, but it's still you. It's not suicide. It's the closest you can get in this universe to suicide, but it isn't. So I think that's one of the only reasons Jax hasn't abstracted and might not abstract. I've seen a lot of people going, oh, Jax is going to abstract. I don't think he is, because if abstraction is like suicide and it's this world's like similarity to suicide, then abstraction isn't something that just happens. Hi again. I worded this poorly when I recorded it, so I'm rewording my thoughts here. I believe that, like suicide, abstraction isn't accidental. It is often something that is either planned or a decision made in an incredibly dark moment. I know from Pomni's dream in episode 2, she portrays it as something that can just randomly happen, but I think it's inaccurate due to her being so new to the circus at the time and her nightmare being nothing more than a manifestation of her fears rather than a depiction of how abstraction actually works. I believe that abstraction is something that only really happens if you let it. Maybe it is similar to how fan art works and that the signs start appearing as your mental state begins to crumble, but if you don't pull yourself out of it, it will take you rather than actively have it be something you struggle against. So that's the reason I think that Jax hasn't abstracted with his mentality, is that he hasn't allowed himself to get to that place. He hasn't allowed himself to process the world enough and the situation that he's in enough and to be himself and figure out who he actually is enough to possibly even abstract. Because he doesn't want to abstract. He wants to die, but he can't. And I think that being tormented by the real world with his connection that he has to the real world is a big part of that. Because he knows that death is still exists. He knows that death is still there. He can't die, but death is still something that happens, and it's not abstraction. And we never really saw Kaufmo before he abstracted. All we know is that he was having a bad time. Ragatha said, I'm sorry, I didn't laugh at your jokes. He wasn't having a good time. Jax also, again, talks later on and says, you don't know what people are like before they abstract. Like, it's horrible. They're awful to be around. Which is a very heartless thing for him to say, honestly. It's an awful thing for him to say. But Jax's obsession with death, I think, is something that's very interesting. That he insists on treating it so casually. Actually, I'll talk about this now, too. I was going to talk about this more when Ribbit gets brought up, but I will talk about it now as well. I think a part of Jax that's very interesting to do with abstraction is, I talked about it before a little bit with the difference between Kaufmo and Ribbit's abstraction, is that abstraction generally and death is treated very casually in this world. It's treated like just something that happens, which death is a very big thing for everyone. Often. Like, death is a big thing. Death is a very significant thing. I said that before. But Caine, literally, the way that they deal with abstractions is that Caine goes, well, there goes another one, pop, into the pole. Which, if you think about it in the context that it's suicide, That's an insane thing to think, and an insane thing for him to do. But Caine isn't a person. He's never been a person. He can't process that. Abstraction is just something that happens to him. So he doesn't understand how, again, this is if it works in a similar way to suicide. He doesn't understand how heartless he's being by just putting them all in a basement and going, because the circus continues. It does just keep going. Nothing changes. The only thing that happens is that, the members will sometimes throw a funeral. But in terms of the greater scheme, a lot of people's abstractions don't change anything. And to the point that there's been so many, there's an entire basement filled with them. Like, that's haunting. That is haunting to live with. That many people have chosen that path. Like, it makes sense why, I don't know, it's treated so casually. And I think that can be really mentally taxing, especially in Jax's scenario, if my theory is right and that he is responsible for Ribbit's abstraction. Seeing that be treated so casually probably just made the facade even worse and made this act even worse of what's the point? Nothing's real. What's the point in anything? If he is single-handedly responsible for his friend's death, not just death, suicide, and he is the only one that knows about it, and there are no consequences for his actions, and nothing changes, what's the point of it even happening? In his eyes. Which is so fucked on so many levels. But just with the lack of severity that any sensitive topic is treated with in the circus, I understand why he takes nothing seriously. I understand why he doesn't care about being mean to people. He doesn't care about, bullying or anything like that. Because if something as severe as suicide and death generally is treated so casually because it makes zero impact, nothing else. My cat, I know. Nothing else has any similar level of severity in his eyes. That's my take. I will talk more about Ribbit's abstraction specifically when it gets brought up later on. Yeah, it's heavy shit. It's heavy shit that they're exploring here. And Jax clearly is not in a good state of mind.
If I shoot you right now, are we still gonna be friends afterwards?
We were never friends.
What about all that stuff you told me?
Yeah, I did tell you a lot, didn't I? Not looking forward to thinking about that tomorrow.
No.
That's probably, again, we've seen that Jax, he definitely has this underlying side of, oh fuck, they know too much about me. Like, oh fuck, I can't tell anyone anything. Like, as much as he fully and utterly believes that he is meant to be the funny one, it's a villain role. He fully believes that he's meant to be a mean character and that's his job. He still has a side of him that is real. He still remembers his past. He still knows that it existed. And there is still parts of him and his humanity, no matter how much he wants it to, there is still his humanity that will shine through. That's how that works. You can only force your personality so much. No matter how much you convince yourself something is true, it can only be, especially personality-wise, it can only be true so far. There is always going to be an underlying part of you that knows that it isn't, no matter how deep down that part is shoved. I think that's also a lot in reference to how he had that reaction when she was like, I'm learning so much about you. And he went, oh, fuck. Yeah, you are. That's kind of a problem. And he's going to freak the fuck out about that later. And I will tell you why in a minute.
Oh, no, we're not doing this. You're not gonna look me in the eye and tell me nothing we've been doing together meant anything to you, because I know that's not true.
Are you coming on to me? Yeah, that's what everybody wants. A straight couple.
That's more reference to him knowing about the fandom and him knowing about fandom culture generally and not taking things seriously.
Oh my god, can you take this seriously? Can you take anything seriously?
Dude, you're a cartoon clown. How am I supposed to take you seriously?
You reached out to me. not the other way around. You're just gonna pretend that didn't happen?
You must be misremembering.
Is this why you didn't show up to Kaufmo's?
Okay. I need to think about this before I say something on it, because
You reached out to me, not the other way around.
this I'm not 100% sure what she's referring to. I'm guessing this is the mention of the stargazing bit in episode 5 when he kind of opens up at least a little bit for the first time. I think that has a little bit of him shining through. It's not as much as we see in this episode, of course, but I think there's a little bit of that there. And I think that's her being like, hey, you opened up to me, asshole. Why are you pushing me away now? Obviously, he regrets that and doesn't want to think about it, and has probably just told himself that if he ignores it enough, it'll go away, which
You're
is
just gonna pretend that didn't happen?
You must be misremembering.
which is why he says this, in terms of being like, if you just ignore it, it will go away. Didn't happen, lol. Because it's one of the stargazing scene specifically was one of those things that's like, he could probably manipulate her enough to convince her that that was just some sort of act. It was like something, I don't know. There's something he could probably say, and he probably thinks that he could say something to get her to not think that was real. Honestly, I'm sat here still being like, I don't know if it fully was. That's the thing with Jax, is sometimes you can see such clear switches, but with his words, he's very intentional about the things he says, except for when he's angry. When he's angry, that's when it sort of goes off the rails a little. But it's mainly you can see his true faces in his expressions most of the time.
Is this why you didn't show up to Kaufmo's funeral?
I don't show up to any funerals.
Yeah, I bet you don't. Because you're scared. You're scared you'll actually show a human emotion.
I'm scared I'll be bored to tears.
I think that specific scene just wraps up really well about Jax's opinion on abstraction generally, like excluding Ribbit. It's treated so casually by Caine and by the rest of the environment and the rest of the world. And honestly, even by the circus members on a surface level, obviously they all probably still miss Kaufmo, but the funeral is really the only thing that ever acknowledges people's abstraction, and then they all move on. And I think that really is shown in Jax's actions here, is that how much like that has affected him on how casually that's entirely treated, is that he has built that now into his brain of, it's not a big deal. It's fine. It's totally fine. If everything else is going to act like it's not a big deal, then I'm not going to act like it's a big deal too. Because why? Because why? Why get freaked out about it, right? Why try and insist on something that you can't change? Yeah, there's just so many layers to it. It's so interesting.
Have you ever thought that this might be what causes people to abstract in the first place?
Oh my god! Are you seriously gonna blame me for something that everybody else did too? You didn't even know him! You don't even know what people are like before they abstract. They are not pleasant to be around. Like at all!
Here. That is the first real snap I think we've seen of Jax here. He instantly takes it very personally, which means abstraction is something that he is very sensitive about. As much as he will say that it's casual, especially an abstraction being to do with him or being his fault, is something he's very sensitive about, which is why I think that he caused Ribbit's abstraction.
Causes people to abstract in the first place?
Oh my god! Are you seriously gonna blame me for something that everybody else did too? You didn't even know him!
So specifically in this scenario, it's Pomni suggesting that Jax could be responsible for Kaufmo's abstraction, which probably isn't true. Well, maybe, again, we don't really know the circumstances of Kaufmo's abstraction, so it's hard to guess. But her even insinuating that, because he was, in my eyes, he's responsible for Ribbit's, probably triggered him really bad, which it did, clearly. If it is true, I imagine that is something he is not proud of. He is very, very guilty about and hates himself deeply for. And her being like, oh, I bet fucking you being like this is why Kaufmo abstracted, is probably hitting somewhere way too close to home. Especially for someone like Pomni, who he doesn't consider a friend. He doesn't consider, like, he only barely started to hang out with her. Like, they've been like, I wouldn't even say friends. They've been tolerable. He's been tolerant of her for like a week, max. That's like someone you just met being like, oh yeah, I bet this really traumatic thing that happened to you was actually all your fault. Like, obviously Pomni doesn't mean for it to be like that, but that's how Jax will take it, which is, I think, why he snaps like this.
You don't even know what people are like before they abstract.
And then he says some really horrible things.
They are not pleasant to be around. Like, at all.
I imagine that specific bit is him trying to justify his actions towards Ribbit before abstracting. To himself, again, if we're talking about abstraction being suicide, going, oh, they're not good, they're not pleasant to be around, that suck, you didn't even know him, blah, 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 blah. Like, that would be him trying to justify to himself why Ribbit, like, why he said the things to Ribbit that he did, why he shouldn't regret it, because he's meant to be mean. He's meant to be this arsehole. He's meant to be this person, and obviously it hits a very core nerve when it's brought up that he could possibly be responsible, because this is the first time I wouldn't say his actions have consequences, but this is something that it hurts him. Losing Ribbit was something that hurt him. That is the consequence. Nothing else in the world was affected, most likely. We don't know much about it, but from what I see, nothing else in the world was affected, but he was hurt that he lost Ribbit because of himself, and he just blames himself for that. There's only so much I can say without repeating myself. Then he went, oh, the reset is so good. He had the moment of, fuck, I'm saying too much, and then went back to being funny. I'm sure you are. Oh, it's such a good line. That's so, you can see the reset as well isn't a reset that's like fully forced. Sometimes, or like, it's not a reset in the same way Caine resets, you know? It's not a reset in the same way when Caine sees something he doesn't like, he just forgets everything and just pretends it didn't happen. He just forgets everything. Jax is aware. Jax is aware of what he just said and is going, shouldn't have said that. Fuck. But at the same time, it's something that he believes that he should say. Because he's the funny one. He's the mean one. It's something he should say, which is why he says it. He means it, but he doesn't want to say it. He doesn't really want to say it, but he thinks that that's what he should say.
Oh, man. This is all sorts of embarrassing, huh?
And then he gets all embarrassed by it because it was actually him. He doesn't like showing himself to anyone. I really fully believe that Jax can't just, like, he can't just turn it off. That is something that I think is different from a lot of other people that talk about this. I don't think Jax can just turn it off. I don't think he can just be serious about something for a second unless he is provoked into it and it is his physical reaction like it was there. I don't think it's just something he can turn off, like, by choice. He can't just switch it off and be like, okay, I'm gonna be serious now. It's something that's so ingrained into him that his actual self only comes out when he's provoked.
You're gonna shoot me or what?
And he's still focusing on being shot. A, entertainment, because she brought up like, oh, it's a betrayal, it's entertainment, right? B, excuse me, kitty. B, that man doesn't want to be alive. It's not something that, like, he doesn't think it's gonna kill him, obviously, but still being willing to put a gun to your head is not something that a regular person would be able to do.
What would you do if I abstracted tomorrow?
Scene.
I'd move on. And probably forget about you.
Okay. Okay.
I love this scene so much. Just this specific scene is so bone-chilling. Because this is Jax after he's let himself be too open. He's let himself get aggravated. He's let himself be too free. And he knows Pomni isn't an idiot. He knows that she's going to try and push, which is what he does. What she does. She tries to push him. But he is trying to sever any hope that she has that he is a good person. Because he doesn't think he's a good person. He doesn't want to be a good person. Because, well, probably deep down he does. But on surface level, he can't process that. Like, to be a good person would be admit that all of this is something that's a real scenario. These people are real. He actually convinced his friend to kill themselves. Like, caused that. Admitting that that's real and taking the blame for that is something that I don't think Jax is ever going to be able to be capable of. At least for now. Like, in this scenario and where he is currently, I don't think he's going to be able to admit that. Because he clearly can't admit that. He cannot admit that he is actually responsible for Ribbit's death. Again, this is all subjective with my theories. So now, in trying to actively peddle that back of being too open, he's actively saying when Pomni went, what if I killed myself tomorrow? And he would say, I don't give a shit. To try and sever any possibility at any relationship, any hope that she has, because he doesn't want to be aware. He doesn't want to process what's happening. He wants to live in this world that he's created for himself and refuses to acknowledge that these are people. And he is a person still because he can't cope with it. And he does, in fact, have millions of people watching him. Like, it's a terrible situation to be in. He's obviously dealing with it horribly. Like, this is not how you should treat anyone ever. But it makes sense. He's so fucked up. Which is why he's a character that I really, really love. Because he's so unbelievably fucked up that he doesn't see any other way to deal with the shit that he's done other than make it worse. One more thing I do want to say is, again, this is how he treats all the abstractions other than Ribbit. That's different because, again, he doesn't know Pomni very well. He hasn't been close to Pomni for very long because of how casually abstraction has been treated in this world. This is the way that he knows that he should respond to it. This is the way that he thinks is the only way he should respond to it. This is the healthy way to respond to it. It's the way that stops him from losing his mind even more than he already has. Pomni, still having a grasp on her humanity, understands that abstraction is a serious thing. It's not casual. It's a pretty big thing, which is why she's so hurt by this. In our terms, he has just said that he wouldn't give a singular fuck if she killed herself, which is hard to hear from anyone. Let alone someone you thought you were bonding with. It's such, oh my God, yeah.
Okay. I understand.
Jeez, you really can't take a joke, can you?
This is an interesting thing as well. When I saw this for the first time, I thought Pomni was going to shoot herself when she held up the gun like that. I now, obviously seeing the context afterwards, it's she attacks Jax, but I thought that was she was going to kill herself. And from the looks of that, it kind of looks like that too. And I think Jax says this thing of,
Jeez, you really can't take a joke, can you?
He says that because he doesn't want to be responsible for another abstraction. If I'm right and he is responsible for Ribbit's abstraction, he doesn't want to be responsible for another one. But he's not going to try and comfort Pomni. And so instead he tries to backpedal a little bit on what he said to make it seem less severe so that she doesn't kill herself. Which, again, Jax, horrible thing to do. That is not at all how you fucking deal with that. So he tries to backpedal on it and says, oh, why are you taking it so seriously? It was a joke. And you can see from, let me go frame by frame. Because it's so well done. Every single little frame has a different indicator on what he's thinking. So he that breath is okay, she's hurt by that. And then it's so hard to put into words. Okay. It's sort of a checking in to see how she's reacting to the thing he just said. Because again, doesn't want to be responsible for another suicide. Deep down, he says on the surface that he doesn't care. Deep down, this is what I'm saying is that I don't think he cares about Pomni. I think he means all this shit that he's saying. And I think that it's not that he cares about Pomni. It's he doesn't want more guilt. He doesn't want to be responsible for another death. It's not personal to Pomni. Maybe it's a little personal, but I think he would do this to any... It depends how close they actually were to what he perceives as abstraction. If another character was in Pomni's situation, I reckon that he would do the same thing. It's not about Pomni specifically. It's just he doesn't want to be the reason that someone dies again. That's and that's probably a contemplating on what to do. Because he knows he's meant to be the funny one. He's meant to say shit like that. He's meant to say mean shit like that. But I think it's also where he realizes that she's not laughing. And he didn't say something funny. He pushed it a little too far. He said something that was genuinely cruel. He said that he didn't care if she abstracted. And that's him realizing that he has just said that. and going, that's a little too far. I think that's his realization of what he said is too far, and now trying to figure out how to take it back without apologizing for it and without admitting that he took it too far, because he can't be perceived as weak. It's Jax. You know, he doesn't want to be weak. He needs to be the funny one. He can't show any human emotion. Like she said, she's gotten it right, but he doesn't know that. It's a really interesting way that he's written. Like, because he's so in his own head about it.
Jeez, you really can't take a joke, can you?
Yeah, as I said, that's him trying to backpedal a little and trying to, I guess, diffuse the situation a little bit, because it got very serious, because he doesn't like serious situations, but obviously he yelled at Pomni, and then Pomni was like, if I killed myself, would you care? And he was like, no. And she took that incredibly personally, because it's a fucked up thing to say.
You're not the funny one.
I don't think that counts. Hey, what are you doing?
Fight back!
Are you crazy?
I said fight back!
Stop! What's wrong with you?
Why didn't you fight back?
Oh, here we go. Here we go. Because I didn't fight back, that means I secretly care about you? I'm just a misunderstood little chicken fetus in an egg that needs to be cracked open. Well, I am not. I do not care about you or anyone else in this circus in the slightest. End of story. You are my playthings, and I get joy out of making you suffer. I'm the one who causes pain for fun. If I led you on, it was just to make this part hurt you more.
Okay. I'm going to say all of that first, and then we're going to talk about this specific scene, because this scene means so much to me. Just this little bit. Let's take it step by step. So, Pomni attacking him. She kind of sees what we all see, that Jax is obviously lying to himself, to everyone else. He pretends that he doesn't. Well, it's difficult because he's not pretending. He doesn't give a shit. He doesn't care, but he's convinced himself into not caring. He's not pretending. I said this before, but I'll say it again. He means everything he says in this monologue. I fully believe that he means all of this. I've seen so many Instagram reels being like, he doesn't mean any of that. He does. I fully believe he means every word he is saying. That doesn't mean he wants to. It's very different. It's a very different thing between if he means it and if he wants to mean it.
Cracked open. Well, I am not. I do not care about you or anyone else in this circus in the slightest. End of story. You are my playthings.
This bit especially, I think, is just super real to him, because it's what he has told himself to justify the things that he's doing. It's what he's told himself to justify his actions, to justify the abstractions, to justify Ribbit's abstraction. He has convinced himself that he is the villain. He says it's the funny one. It's the villain. He's told himself he's the villain so that it's okay for him in his own head to do all of this stuff, because he's the villain. He's the bad guy. And this is his role. This is what he's meant to do. This is who he is. So I don't think he's pretending. He's saying all of this stuff because he means it. But he means it in the way that he means it to be completing his role. And he's convinced himself that all of this stuff is true. Because I can tell you, he has never had a single thought of, oh, I care about Pomni. Oh, I care about this. The only way that those probably come up for him is in physical reactions and regret and guilt and emotions. There will never be, oh, not never. Okay, that's a bit extreme. I don't think has ever had a thought of contemplation about this. He's never reconsidered it. He has decided that this is the only way to live. It's not even decision. It's what he believes is the only way to survive in this world. It's the only option. There's not even another choice. This is what he is. This is who he thinks he is, because he's given up on his humanity. He's a cartoon character. He's a purple rabbit, and his job is to be mean to people. That's all he thinks he is. And the only thing that slips through that is his emotions, his human emotions that are still there, whether he wants them or not. They are still there. And it's the reason he gets so angry. It's the thing that causes him to do this. People were saying that he does this because he cares. It's not because he cares. It's because he's feeling shit. And I don't think that thing is care or affection. I guess you could say it's care, but I think labeling it as he cares is way too, like, surface level to say for what Jax is experiencing. Because caring about someone is normally a positive thing. I guess it can be painted in a negative thing, and in this case, I suppose it is. But I think care is too, like, friendly and too optimistic and positive of a word. He doesn't care. He has these destroying and devouring feelings of guilt and regret that eat him up, and the only way he can deal with it is by believing that he is this horrible person and that he is meant to do all of this, and just makes it worse. But this is all he thinks he can be. Again, stemming from self-hatred. Stemming from a loss of humanity, a given up, his feeling of humanity, a complete unacceptance of the situation that he's in. Again, I think that Jax is really like this because he does have that added detail of the fact he can see everyone. He can interact with everyone. He knows it's a show. Which I think has driven him to this point, is why he has to do this. He has to be mean for... There's so many different reasons. There's so many different theories. There's so many different reasons as to why he could be doing this. I have multiple little... I don't think it's just one reason. I think the main ones will be, again, the fact he's aware it's a show. 2, his complete and utter loss of humanity. His belief that this isn't real, because technically it's not, but also it is because they're people. But he's just completely given up, which again is caused by the fact that he knows it's a show. And then Ribbit's abstraction, how casually abstraction is treated in this world, and death is treated, suicide is treated, like just how casually all of that is done, how illogical everything is in the digital circus. There's no night or day, there's no circadian rhythm. Like he doesn't have a circadian rhythm. He can't. Like he's lost so much of his identity. He lost the initial things when he came into the circus of his body and his name, and then he gave up the rest of it. So he has purposefully shoved himself into this box of the villain, of the funny one. The funny one. I think it's a villain because obviously look at him. This is all he believes he is. And that's why I disagree when people are like, oh, he cares about Pomni, that's why he's saying all of this, is because he doesn't want to and he cares about her. Like, yes, but don't... It's so much more mental turmoil than he's shy.
And I get joy out of making you suffer.
It's interesting the way that he says this, like these lines specifically, is he says it like he's reading a Wikipedia article. Like if he was saying his, like, it feels like it's in third person without being in third person. You know, he's just not saying Jax, he's saying I. But it feels as though he's not talking about himself. He's talking about what he should be. He's talking about a character. He's talking about something else. He feels like he's reading a Wikipedia article. This isn't what he actually feels. He's listing off these, like, they're facts. This is a codex that he lives by. It's not him, yes, but he doesn't know who he is in reality.
I'm the one who causes pain for fun. If I led you on, it was just to make this part hurt you more.
Now, that little sequence specifically says so much. Fuck is such a good way of showing his absolute frustration, because instantly, you can see the guilt in everything he's just said. Here, let's go frame by frame.
Just to make this part hurt you more.
Instantly, you can see the fucking guilt in his face. Instantly. This is why I think, like, the animators and the storyboarders and just the people, everyone does such an amazing job. Voice actors, like, it's just such a good ensemble of everything together that really shows so much emotion. You can see all of his thoughts so well. Instantly, he regrets everything he's just said. But he doesn't think it can go any other way. This is how it has to be. This is how he fully believes it has to be. He has to say this shit so that Pomni doesn't like him. So that she stays away, so that he can't get close to someone. It is, I think that's one reason. There is many reasons towards this. He could also just regret that he pushed it too far. You know, he's the funny one. That wasn't very funny, Jax. He just showed his whole hand. He went, I'm the villain. I'm the reason that I enjoy seeing you suffer. If I ever led you on, it was to make this moment hurt more. That isn't a very funny thing to say, Jax. That's a very real thing to say. That's a very, very, very real thing for you to say. And instantly he's aware of this. He instantly knows that he has said too much. He has shown Pomni, because again, she picked up on him that he wasn't all like this before. He has instantly shown Pomni his hand in the amount that of emphasis that he's put on the things he's saying, on how evil he's pretending to be. And he knows that. He knows that Pomni knows too much about him now and is unreasonably regretful. I'd say another reason he could also be feeling so much regret is this ties into my ribbit abstraction. I've said the word ribbit and abstraction too many times. My ribbit abstraction theory that this conversation happened before with Ribbit and Jax, that something similar happened where Ribbit got too close and Jax did something similar, yelled at Ribbit, made them feel like shit, made them feel insignificant, unloved, small, something like that. And that caused Ribbit to kill themselves. And I'm guessing that regret could also be coming from that sort of sense of deja vu of, fuck, I've done it again. You can see the waver in his smile. Normally Jax's lines are very, very straight, very rigid, very, like, you can see on this shot, he's got very straight lines. And when he was like being like, oh, I'm the evil playthings, you can see his mouth is all wobbly. Here, his mouth is wobbly. He is uncertain. His eyes are slightly out of sync with each other. It's just so well portrayed. The eye twitch as well. You can see there's a tiny eye twitch there. It's so well done. Just that bit. The acting in that part specifically is so well done. You can see how much he's been so real with Pomni just then. More real than he's been with anyone. He's shown Pomni how much this shit bothers him by getting so aggravated. Which is why, again, I think he means all of it. Because this is shit he tells himself in the mirror. This is shit that he will talk to himself about and tell himself. But he's never let anyone else see because he's not meant to be affected. He doesn't want to be affected by this kind of stuff. And he's now just shown Pomni by getting so angry about it how affected he is. And you can even see Pomni in this scene. She's probably pretty scared, but she also looks just more confused than anything. Jax has tried to be threatening here. That whole sequence is him trying to be scary. It's trying to push Pomni away. But with the things that he's saying, it seems more like a cry for help than anything else. When you're so self-aware that your actions are bad and that you're doing this purposefully, it comes off a lot more as a cry for help than genuinely being a dick. He's being a dick on purpose. He's choosing to be a dick. It's not that he actually is. He's convinced himself that he is, which is why he's acting like this. But as a human, he's probably not. I talked about this before, but before he came to the circus, he probably wasn't like this at all. Maybe not all, but he probably wasn't like this. And even in Pomni's expression, you can see that she takes it as the main message, at least the main messages I would get out of this if someone said this to me is, okay, first, I have crossed a boundary, I need to back the fuck up. Secondly, he is so much more not okay than he gives off to be. Like, so much more not okay. Which is, again, why Jax became even more of my favorite character this episode, is that he's just so fucked up on a level that has so many layers to it that it's not something as simple. It's not something as simple that can be simply fixed by a cute conversation. Because obviously in the show a lot, Pomni have conversations with these people of being like, oh, that sucks. Like with Gummigo and like that, like tried to have with Gangle, the conversation with Kinger. Jax is a character that cannot be solved with a conversation, as she tried to do here. She tried to get him to open up. She tried to reach out to him, and he bit back so hard. He doesn't want help. Something that I will say a lot of the time with real situations as well is that you can only help someone as much as they want to be helped. If someone is not committed and doesn't want to get better, there is only so much you can do. And Jax is a really, really amazing example of that, is that he does not want to change. He does not want to get better. At least with Gummigoo and at least a little with Gangle, they don't want to be sad. They don't want to be the way that they are. Gangle doesn't want to be sad, which is why she's letting herself get close to Zooble. Jax does. Well, kind of. It's less, it's more nuanced than that. But Jax, he doesn't want to change. He doesn't want to be different. He doesn't see a point in trying to. The only thing that really actually gets to him is Ribbit's abstraction. That is my theory. Obviously, I don't know. I don't even know if he actually did cause Ribbit's abstraction. I don't even know. Yeah, it's a theory. But that's the thing that's been consistent in all of his crash outs have been a mention of Pomni getting closer to him, Pomni understanding him, Pomni, recognizing him, or like the thing that Ragatha said about him corrupting Pomni. It's all to do with him becoming closer with Pomni. And the only other reasons of the times that we've seen his other crash out, which aren't as much crash outs, but more acknowledgements of something deeper, is when he's looking at Ribbit's door or something to do with Ribbit. Ragatha brings up Ribbit or something like that. So that's why I believe that there's a direct correlation between the two of them. Jax is not easily triggered by things. And the thing that really got him started initially was Pomni blaming him for Kaufmo's abstraction. That's why I think that Jax is responsible for Ribbit's abstraction. And as I said before, I think he's the only one that knows, which would really, again, be a toll on his mental state and would even like make it even like his behavior just even more enforced because he has to feel like it's not real even more.
There's nothing more to me. So please, just stop looking.
That's another part of Jax doesn't want to change. He's telling her that there isn't anything more. He knows that there is. He doesn't want there to be. And he doesn't want to change. Jax is such a good character. He's so well written. I'm curious as to where Jax is in relation to this clip. Because, okay, wait, so they're next to each other because you can see in the sofas in the back. Okay, so they're walking together. But then, like, Pomni just walks into Ragatha and Jax isn't there. So I'm a little confused as to where Jax is, but he clearly isn't really mentally there. He's there physically. I don't think he's mentally there.
Hey, I have something
like where's Jax?
You can speak first.
This is cute.
Let's talk after the show.
Yeah, sounds good.
And he just feels like what I'm getting here from his emotions is that he just is angry at himself and is taking it out on everyone else, which is why he doesn't want to sit with Pomni. He doesn't want to acknowledge her. Jax From what I see, Jax deals with his problems by running away from them and pretending they're not real. So that's kind of what he's trying to do in this situation. But I think this specific scenario has hit him deep enough that he can't just put on the facade. He can't just pretend everything's fine, because it isn't. And all of that stuff that he said to Pomni was something that he actually said, and now she knows too much, and he isn't happy about it.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the Favorite Character Awards! Before anything starts, I'd like to thank the committee for examining.
I'm guessing we're the committee. This is another situation of Caine. Well,
Our nominees and voting on our winners.
that was us. Well, okay, but here's my example. Is that Caine says, you know, thank you to the nominees for the committees for voting and stuff. But then he makes a committee that's in the show. So is he not aware that we're real? Because he makes a committee that's there.
Shut up.
That's a cute scene, but...
What's an award show?
Okay, wait. Let me talk about Caine a little more before we dive back into Jax. But that's the thing that I'm sort of like, how aware is Caine that it's a show? Because all the sort of fourth wall breaks that he has, he will make physical things to represent that. Like, he has that group of mannequins who are his physical representation of the committee. Does he think that that was where the votes came from? It's hard to tell. It's hard to tell how much Caine actually knows about the outside world. Yeah, anyway, Jax.
Without honorable mentions in some categories. That's right, it's bad.
I want to comment on the... This is the first time I've actually seen Jax look sad. I think this is actually the first time he's ever been sad. Because this is... Oh my god. Heart-wrenching. Okay. Again, wobbly mouth. He looks like he's gonna cry. And he just looks so guilty. The foot tapping. Yeah. Yeah. He's not... Again... He's here physically, he's not here mentally. I also could not imagine a worse situation to have to go into than an award show after what happened with that. Like, with that whole situation. He probably has, like, so much going on in his head, and a really loud scenario with a lot of people, and people you don't want to think about. A very anxious, like, anxiety-inducing situation in a loud room. That would fucking suck. I think it's interesting here, the foot tapping and then the step, like the stomp is an interesting choice because it's really does show the anger that he feels this way. He hates feeling this way. He doesn't want to feel like this at all. He doesn't think he should be feeling like this. And he doesn't believe it's the right thing for him to feel. This, I think, is this whole sequence, this like scene, this little scene here, is the first time you see Jax actually acknowledge himself. Because throughout literally the whole thing, it's just anger. Any scene-off moment we have is anger. This is the first time you see him acknowledge his emotions, and it's not willingly. It is because his body has forced him into this because of feelings. If you've ever felt really guilty about something, you know how fucking devouring guilt can be. I think personally, for me at least, I think guilt is one of the worst feelings in the world. Like, a severe, devouring feeling of guilt is unrivaled to me. It makes me so anxious. I imagine that's what he feels a lot here. But he doesn't want to feel like this. He fucking hates it. He hates feeling like this. So it's a mix of half of him is saying that he feels so bad and that he shouldn't have said that and that he wants to fix it. And the other half is saying that he's an idiot for feeling like that and that he shouldn't feel this way. And that it's just this unending, eternal battle.
Right? It's bad.
Oh boy. I'm gonna cry. This scene is such a well depicted panic attack, or like the start of one. This scene, and there's a scene in Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, where Puss has a panic attack out of just fear. Like, they're both, I think, my favorite depictions of like severe anxiety in media. The turning on the tap to try and drown out his thoughts is such a good like detail, as well as just everything going blurry, all the I don't know, it's such, if you've ever had a panic attack, like, I think the little bit of sight that we have here, I think is a really, this is such a good, because not only is it depicting him having a panic attack really well, is that he can see the shadow of a rabbit that he has to accept as himself. Again, going into the circus, you lose a key part of your identity, which is what you look like. And Jax personally took that as a removal, like an opportunity to remove his humanity. And looking in a shadow and seeing something that doesn't feel like you would be just such an out-of-body experience. Such a terrifying experience that, yeah, no wonder he gave up his humanity and felt like he lost all of it. I'm not surprised, honestly. And seeing the blur go in and out, the quick breathing, like how staticky everything is. Again, I'm not going to get into the details of what having a panic attack is like. If you've had one, you know what it feels like, and it feels like this. If you haven't, don't. If you can avoid it, don't. That's such a stupid thing to say. If you haven't had a panic attack, then this might be a little harder to comprehend. Just take my word for it that it's pretty accurate to this. You can see just the different thoughts and feelings and emotions that are going through his head of, there's so much sound. He's so scared. There is so much going on. There's so much sound, so many feelings of everything. This is the thing I think he is actively trying to avoid happening. This is why he is the funny one. This is why he forces himself into these caricatures, so that he doesn't let himself have these panic attacks. He doesn't let himself show his emotions, because a lot of the time, if you shut off your humanity, you shut off all these emotions as well. And sometimes the good emotions come with the bad ones. I mean, not sometimes, they do. That's how shutting off emotions works. If you shut off all your good emotions, you shut off your bad ones. And that's better than feeling like this a lot of the time. If he feels like this is if my theory as abstraction works similar to suicide. If he feels like this and drives himself to a state where he can't talk himself out of it, Jax isn't going to have anyone else to talk him out of it. He will abstract. And once you abstract, from what we know, you can't go back. And abstracting isn't death. It's, you get locked in a cellar for eternity. Still constantly focusing and thinking of what I imagine, because we see all of the abstractions are very aggravated. So I'm guessing they're sent into, my best guess is abstracting is feeling like you're constantly in a panic attack. Just all of that constantly, like forever. Unless you're calmed down, like, you know, what happened with King and Queenie, and things like that. But he won't be able to hide from these emotions anymore if he abstracts, my guess. So he doesn't want to let himself get to that point. But he knows that if he doesn't act like it's not real, he will. Oh, he's such a well-written character.
God, you look stupid.
This as well, this line is so important. As well as like the eye blink. I think people call it like frog blinking. It's the same thing that Gangle did when she was walking through the hallway and felt really out of it and numb. It's how they show in the show, it's how they show like just complete disassociation, I suppose, or just like, at least in Gangle's case, it was very disassociation, but very much the case of you're not fully there. You don't want to be fully there, you know? And him saying, you look stupid, is, again, that part of him that hates himself for feeling like this. He doesn't want to feel like this. He hates that he has this humanity that's still in him, and he doesn't want it to be there. It's such a real way to portray these kind of anxiety attacks and these kind of feelings. It's so authentic in that immediately after you feel like a fucking idiot. You feel like a very common thing, especially in real life with severe anxiety, at least from what I know. Again, everyone's experiences are different. Always feeling like it was cringe, or that I shouldn't feel like this, or it was dumb to feel like this. And it just all spirals from a shit ton of self-hate, you know? I could talk about this for hours. I have been talking about this for hours. I wonder how long this video is going to be. It's just so well done. It's just so authentic and well done that I need to express it. The immediate disregard for how you feel afterwards, like the immediate hatred for feeling like you do, is so real. I've realized that I've talked a lot about relating to this scene. I'm gonna make it very clear that I'm fine now. I'm talking about in the past. I need to make it very clear to you guys, I'm fine. I've had some rough periods of time in my life. I've worked through them now. I'm actually probably the happiest I've ever been currently. So you don't need to worry about me. I'm fine. But I'm just saying that like I've experienced this. I've been there. So it means a lot to me that Goose has written and portrayed this so well with Jax. It also, like, when Gangle went through a similar thing, it's just nice to see how accurate the portrayal is in this kind of thing. And especially with Jax, how difficult it can be to drag yourself out of it, you know? Or like, because I feel like in a lot of media with mental illness and these kind of things, with shoving yourself like back and being like putting on a mask and stuff, in a lot of media it's always fixed with one conversation, you know, and it's never that easy in real life. Especially in Jax's case, he's not even really aware that he's doing it because he genuinely believes this is how it should be. He believes that this side of him is the wrong side. He believes that this is the bad thing. This is the thing he should be trying to get rid of, not working on the other side. It's so interesting because it applies to so many real people. Of serious mental issues can't just be solved with someone going, I care about you and I love you, because it's not that simple. A lot of the time it's not. Obviously support is good. Support your friends if they're going through shit, but it's never like that easy, you know? It's never, you can only really get out of a bad situation. In my experience, you can only really get out of a bad situation once you put in the work. Everyone can help you, everyone can support you, but if you are not committed to changing, you won't. And it's so hard to face that truth sometimes. And Jax won't admit it. I don't think he even knows. He doesn't want to. Like, he doesn't even want to think about possibly changing because he doesn't think that it's wrong. He doesn't understand why what he's doing was wrong because of the insanity of the situation that he's in. Again, I understand. I don't think it's okay for him to do any of this, obviously, but there are so many layers of fucked up here that he's had to work upon that it makes sense why he's like this. God, he's such an interesting character.
So,
doesn't even
and the
acknowledge him.
award for biggest sailor mouth goes to Zooble.
I do love that Zooble's just high. That's funny as hell. Oh, okay. I need to talk about this difference. Big difference between Pomni and Ragatha. I'm not sure, but the fact that Pomni still wants to go and check on Jax even after everything that he said to her truly means that I think Pomni is significantly more secure in herself and is more self-confident than some of the other people that are here. Obviously, she has issues as well, but definitely more than Ragatha, because Ragatha would have taken all of that to heart if Jax had said that. I mean, Jax, she already is concerned that Jax hates her. Like, I think Ragatha really would have taken that to heart. Whereas I think Pomni did see it more as a cry for help of, this guy really isn't okay, that he's trying to push me away this hard by saying all of this stuff. Like, and she still wants to go and check on him. She hasn't given up on Jax in a way that Ragatha has. And again, I don't blame Ragatha. Obviously, Ragatha still has a lot of her own issues. It's not her responsibility to take care of Jax, but I think it's just a very interesting difference between the two of them, is that Pomni recognizes that this isn't really something that's to do with her. Well, maybe. That's my interpretation. But again, this is literally her just getting out of her seat slightly when seeing Jax. So like, this is how my brain interprets it, but it may be completely different. But then, of course, he's looking all smiley. He's gone back to being himself. He's gone back to being in the act. So she doesn't think that anything's wrong.
All right, folks. It's now the moment you've all been waiting for. The award for favorite character. Bubble, give me a drum roll. And the award for favorite character goes to... Why, it's me, everyone! Oh, wait, I misread that. It's me.
You shouldn't have assumed you won the award. Now we both look foolish.
Yeah, I don't really have anything to say about that. I will, however, skip forward. Well, actually, no, I'm not going to skip forward because everyone needs to see the credits. This show is amazing. Shout out to all of these people that made it and like contributed to making this story so absolutely fucking incredible. I'm so excited for episode 7. Digital Circus is so well made between the... I'm gonna mute this for a second. Between the character writing, between the building of the characters, the world building, the expressions, the little details, storyboarding, like everyone has played their part to perfection. And it is genuinely such an incredible piece of media. Digital Circus is, I think, definitely up there with one of my favorite shows of all time. Arcane's also up there. It gives me I like it in a very similar way that I used to and still do. One of my favorite games of all time is Doki Doki Literature Club, which if you don't know it's a take on a dating simulator where it becomes a psychological horror because all of the girls are in love with you so heavily that they're driven to kill themselves. And there is one girl who essentially has control over everything and becomes self-aware that she is in a video game and is completely driven to the point of insanity. And it is so well done and so terrifying. And Digital Circus just really seems like it's going in a similar direction. Maybe not quite as horror, but it seems like it's going very much in the self-awareness direction and really deep diving into the mental health and the impacts that some of these events would have on real people, just in a way that many shows don't. And I love it so much. It's so well written. It's just so well done.
Alrighty.
Now, that's a mannequin. I don't know if it's the same one from episode 5, but it probably isn't. I'm probably just looking into it.
Now, let's see how many of them voted for me.
Now, he says how many of them voted for me. Is he talking about the made-up committee that he made, or is he talking about us? How much does Caine actually know? He's so vague about it. Also, this is interesting because these, I don't think, are actually the scores of the final... These aren't the final scores. Also, Zooble's not on here. I just noticed. Caine did come last, but I'm pretty sure Pomni and Jax were top 2, and then it was Kinga, and then this may have just been changed because like it was like they had to animate something. They had to actually animate something for the rest of the show to come out. And I think also the other ones don't really matter that much. The main point is that Caine lost. And here we go. There is Caine beginning to lose his shit. Oh, it's so good. It's so good. Anyway, yeah. So this is where I finished watching the episode, but I did a rewatch with a friend of mine, and I wanted to point out some things that are sort of to do with just a lot of stuff overall that are either unanswered questions or just something that's interesting. I noticed that Jax, in all the episodes, he talks about how much he used to hang out with Gangle a lot, and it's always with her and always takes interest in why she's hanging out with Zooble. I don't really know what that could mean, but it seems in the past that him and Gangle were just like, he just had probably a lot more authority over her. And that's kind of changed a bit, but like he brings her up in episode 4 and episode 6 as well. Like there's some kind of connection there. I don't really know what it can mean, but there's something there. I wanted to also point out when I rewatched that in episode 3, Pomni says, this hasn't really been addressed, but Pomni says like, he knew I would end up like this or something like that. Like, or like he knew, like I deserve that. Like he knew who the fuck are you talking about? Girl, who are you talking about? I feel like no one has really addressed this and we kind of forgot about it. Girl, who are you talking about? Who is this guy? Who is this man? And I would also like to talk about the parallels between what we found out between Kinger's wife and the Mildenhall story of the Mildenhall story of that he got so insane he ended up killing his wife. In Kinger's way, it would be him blaming himself for getting his wife abstracted because he created the circus. That is if he did. The Mildenhall story ends with him saying that if anything, he's going to slay the beast who took his wife from him. And if we apply that to Kinga, then possibly if Kinga maybe gains a little bit more like consciousness in the daylight, that he might end up rebelling against Caine or something like that, because Caine seems to be, you know, the more reaching into the antagonistic role in the later episodes. So that could be a cool parallel for what happens in the future. I don't know. These are just thoughts I picked up on rewatching the series. That is my very, very, very detailed analysis on Digital Circus as a whole of episode 6 of Jax as a character. I am incredibly excited for the next episode. I feel like I have yapped for long enough. This video is going to take so long for me to edit. I hope you enjoyed. I think my date everything video will come out shortly. Well, shortly, it'll be like a few weeks. But yeah, anyway, hope you enjoyed this. Bye!
I never sleep, I never eat, I never leave my house alone. Another evening in between